So good afternoon, everybody. I will call this meeting to order for our budget session on, what is today? 21st of May. When you just got off a plane and running to get here, I'm a little winded, but I'm here. So I will read the public charge, given that this is a process. The Board of Commissioners asks its members and citizens to conduct themselves in a respectful, courteous manner, both with the board and fellow citizens. At any time, should any member of the board or any citizen fail to observe this public charge, the chair will ask the offending person to leave the meeting until that individual regains personal control. Should decorum fail to be restored, the chair will recess the meeting until such time that a genuine commitment to the public charge is observed. I think that our first item is 23081, Refugee and Immigrant Update. The first item. Throwing things, Keith? Do we need to duck and dodge or what? We will start ducking.
Okay. Good afternoon, Chair Houghton, members of the board, county residents. It is an honor to present to you an overview of Immigrants and Refugee Affairs Program. This program, as you know, I'm very excited about it. I love it, and the reason why is because it reflects the values and goals of the Board of Commissioners and the City Council, both working tirelessly to improve the well-being of all while reducing barriers to accessing services, especially for to people in need. And most of them are immigrants and refugees living in Durham. So here is the agenda for my presentation. I'll give you an overview of the refugee and immigrant population in Durham. Then I'll talk a little bit about the my role and task as a coordinator. And I'll talk about the current work I'm doing since I started last August, hit the ground running, and then I'll talk about next year, what I'm looking forward to, and beyond next year. Then I'll give you a long-term view of what I'm seeing in this program and what I would like it to be. Then I will be more than happy to answer questions and get your recommendation, and I will not take too much of your precious time. Thank you. So, Durham, through the Census 2020, has more than 300,000 people calling Durham County home. 14.8% of that population are foreign-born. The awesome thing about these numbers is that Durham is way ahead of other neighboring counties as the percentage of immigrants and refugees or foreign-born living in Durham. Even compared to the national average, we are pretty far ahead. And that says a lot about the work the board is doing, the work the leadership is doing, the work the city is doing to make Durham a welcome place for immigrants and refugees to call home. So, in addition to the 2020 census, from 2020 until today, the population is growing. And in Durham, we have immigrant and refugee service providers that work every day with this population. Church World Service, for instance, I've served almost 1,000 people from 2020 to 2023. That goes to World Relief as well, El Centro, El Futuro. They all have been serving the immigrants and refugee communities for a long time. So this is just to pretty much confirm what you all know, that our population is growing and we have more people coming to Durham. In Durham, all these 14.8% of the population do speak different languages at home. Yes. So do speak different languages at home. And among those languages, I, for instance, do not speak English as the primary language at home. It's called Ife. It's from West Africa. And as you see on the slide, many of people come from different parts of the world, bringing languages that they speak with their kids at home. And most of them are Spanish, Chinese, Arabic, Swahili, Vietnamese, Tagalog, Filipino, Hindu, French, Pashto, Dari, Karen, Burmese, Amharic, Bengali, Jare. They are from all over the world. And unless you hear someone in the grocery store, you don't usually know that they do speak many more languages. And with all these languages they come with different immigration status. We have people that are permanent residents, refugees, asylees, the DACA and visa holders, temporary protective status. And for that, we have the TPS holders, for instance. This year, they are from 16 countries, including Afghanistan, Burma, Cameroon, El Salvador, Ethiopia, Haiti, Honduras, Nepal, Nicaragua, Somalia, South Sudan, Sudan, Syria, Ukraine, Venezuela, and Yemen. So all this is just more diversity in Durham. We do have a higher percentage of foreign-born in Durham because of policies that we have. And all the policies are geared toward helping immigrants feel at home in Durham. However, the new American economy on its city index examined the landscape of local policies towards immigrants, as well as how immigrants are doing in these cities and counties by looking at their economic, social, and political outcome. So with that, if you look at the slide, for instance, Durham has an overall score of 2.8 over 5 for our immigrant integration based upon policies and socio-economic outcome. So I went ahead and compared Durham with other cities, Charlotte and Richmond. Why do I choose Charlotte and Richmond? They pretty much have the same composition as Durham. So I wanted to see how we fare compared to these cities. So we can see that Charlotte has a score of 3.25 over 5, and Richmond 3.38. So this obviously says that Durham has room to improve its score. With this, I would like to talk a little bit about the purpose of the City and County Immigrant and Refugee Affair. Why is it created? We all know that it's created to support and empower our immigrant and refugee communities to successfully integrate into Durham's civic, economic, and cultural life. So, to do so, I understand that there are some roles and tasks that I will focus on. And the first one is that I know that I'm responsible for driving the city and county and community-wide effort around immigrant and refugee initiative and practices. So since August, we've been working on that, and I'll talk about the successes that we had in that vein. Also, to work both internally and in the city and the county, and externally in the community, and develop and maintain collaborative partnership with organizations and individuals, and support Durham Immigrant and Refugee Initiative and organization. So, with that in mind, these are the current work that I've been doing. Since August, when I started, I've had more than 100 one-to-one meetings with the organizations and individuals in the community. And these interagency meetings led to the bringing together of immigrants and refugee service providers in Durham. So here, for instance, behind me, we have a central that is here, sitting at the table every month. We have Church World Service, War Relief, Refugee Community Partnership. That is not in Durham, but in Scarborough, we have the Durham Public Schools representatives, the Durham Police Department, and Durham Tech and Ocaso Foundation. This interagency coordination, it's been really helpful to see what other agencies are doing, how to come together and go off a same strategy on how to effectively serve immigrants and refugees in these different agencies. In addition to the interagency coordination or coalition that happened really quick, because I was coming to this position already working with several organizations in and around Durham. So we've known each other for quite a while. And getting together this group, I won't say it wasn't that hard, but the goal or the purpose of each agency was so in tune to what the county and the city is trying to do. So getting them at the table, you can see that. So we are forming an internal city and county collaborative team. This to coordinate programming and services at the local government level. We want to know what each department is really doing so that we once we know that, we can come up with the ways to help one another to better or to improve our services. We're planning a kickoff of this meeting for this group in the next quarter. This meeting would include immigrant and refugee facing staff from each department. So this outreach is still going, and the meeting is coming very soon. So through my presentation until now, you can see some kind of planning going on. We want all the organizations to be on the same step when it comes to serving immigrants and refugees. So we went ahead and applied to building integrative community grants. The pictures on the slide, I really love these pictures because I would say it is beyond getting the refugee and immigrant service providers at a table. This has been one of my greatest achievements so far, getting the leadership from the city and the county to be at the same table and having a conversation that is solely focused on immigrants and refugees in Durham. So, yes, I did that. However, we are still waiting on the Building Integrated Community Grant folks to tell us whether we get it or not. This is the first step. This work is much more a collaborative work, and we are looking forward to improve that. So far, I've talked about immigrant and refugee service providers, the intra-agency collaboration. While we are trying to get the service providers around the table to find a common strategy, it's also very important to me, that the refugee and immigrant community are also at the table where the decisions are being made. So I came up with the My Durham Leadership Academy. This is just a pilot program. Of course, it is a best practice in other cities like Nashville, Tennessee. They've been running this program for the past 10 to 12 years and have graduated more than 200 immigrants and refugees. At the end of the, when they graduate, most of the participants apply to boards and commissions. We want the immigrants and refugees to civically, economically, and culturally integrate Durham life. So that goes on that, and that's the part we're trying to follow. So we're going to have, we're learning a lot about the program. For instance, the first meeting was with the Durham History Museum of History. That's the a second picture down to your left. The meeting was online. We learned a lot about how Durham came to be. And I myself did not know much about that, but was really, really happy when I got home and was talking to my kids about, do you know that Durham was this? My daughter is very like that. She learned something, come home and quiz me on it so she can show she knows. So I tried to do the same, and learning about the history of Durham was great. Then the other pictures are the meeting that we had, presentation from the Durham Transportation Department that gave the participant a better understanding of how the transportation works and also to know that the Transportation Department is looking for applicants, it's looking for drivers. The more drivers we have, the better it's going to be for folks who ride the bus every day. And we can also extend the time that the bus goes around. But now it only stops at midnight. So midnight is also the time when the third shift goes to work. So all these are great that we are learning about this. All this information is taken and to the participants' community and then spread into languages that they speak. As they came, learn that in English, they go over there and will speak all these languages that I mentioned to really pass the information on. The next thing I am working on, I'm very proud, is Durham Refugee Day. And as you know, I've been leading the organizing of Durham Refugee Day for the past 3-4 years. I'm really proud of the work that we are doing, and it is also here the opportunity to say thank you all for making this event happen. It gives immigrants and refugees a purpose, a sense of belonging, of being known and heard on that day. That day is also the day where they put faces to the names. We do hear your names through the news, social media, who is this person? And that day, when you are at Durham Refugee Day, you see immigrants and refugees going around and talking to you, getting to know you better. So thank you for making this happen. So, next year and beyond, we want to increase the interagency and intra-agency coordination. As of now, we've started this since October. We've been here less than a year, but that is not a reason not to grow our work. It's not the reason not to bring many more people at the table. A few people cannot really think for the whole population. The more people we have at the table, the easier it's going to be to find issues and suggestions that will improve the way we serve immigrants and refugees in Durham. The next point to this is the interlocal agreement that, to my understanding, it's having some lagging time somewhere on the resolution or the approval part of it, the city level. Beyond that, we want to have a community assessment to map resources, know exactly what is out there, and how to maximize these our resources. And next, to have a need assessment to collect the data that will help support a common strategy. This strategy that will require an additional fund to complete an in-depth analysis of this. It's not fair to me to come to you and tell you this is what the immigrants and refugee community will want. It's not fair to them. It's not fair to me. The better way to make this a good strategy is to have all these, the asset mapping, the need assessment, then we know exactly what we have, we know exactly what is needed, and how to strategize on how to improve this. And the next one is My Durham 2.0. Of course, we're learning as we're going, but we want to improve that and get many more immigrants and refugees to participate and learn more about how both local government work. The more they know, the easier it's going to be to bring their suggestion, their advice on how to improve our work. I remember that I have served on 2 boards so far since I got here, one in Chapel Hill and one here. It took me a while when I got on the board to learn what the board is doing. I don't want that. We don't have much time to get on the board and sit for 3 months to learn about that. So learning about how the local government work, knowing the in and out of all the departments, it's going to be a lot easier to hit the ground going and giving a more constructive advice instead of just sitting there and wait to learn more about how to improve our work. The next one that I would like to talk about is to explore the concept of an immigrants and refugee welcome center, and this to provide a clear access point to the community and government resources, and a welcoming front door for immigrant and refugee residents in Durham. And lastly, we also would like to explore creating a resource guide for immigrants and refugees in Durham in other languages. This is also a best practice in Boise, Idaho, for instance. Very small city, but they do have resource guides for the immigrants and refugee communities in other languages. It will be a great thing to have in Durham as well. So with this, if we get all this next year and beyond, that will lead us in 5 years of having Durham to become a blueprint for immigrants and refugee integration. Most of the cities and counties that are certified welcoming city and counties are not working in tandem between the city and the county. I think Durham is the only one that have this position. So 1 is better than 2. No, that's not the correct thing. 2 is better than 1. Excuse me. Yes, so excited. Anyway, I wanted to emphasize on the fact that having Durham and Durham County and Durham City working together is better than having one city or one county. And Durham is known as the medical city of medicine, right? Well, my goal is to make Durham the city of immigrants and refugee integration. To do that, we also want to increase the score that I mentioned previously. It will be the right thing to do. We are already on that path to get there. We also want to improve the communication, the public safety, mobility, entrepreneurship, and leadership of the immigrant and refugee community in Durham, while increasing their participation in the local government. We also want to expand and deepen our collaboration between the city and the county. Lastly, if we do all that, I'm sure that we will become the certified welcome city and county together. With this, I will say thank you for your attention, and I am looking forward to your question. I will do my best to answer those.
Well, thank you so much for your presentation. Commissioners, questions, comments? Commissioner Long?
Thank you so much, Nayo and Donna, for all of this work. I know I myself and this entire board shares the excitement with you about this work. I had some questions about and last slide when we were talking about in 5 years. The biggest one is, what will it take for Durham to become a certified welcoming city and county? Is that like a national recognition that we have to like meet certain thresholds? If you have some of those on top of your head, or like if you can send those to us, I would love to be able to learn that. And how has your interaction been? I know like with you, Nayo, you've already been integrated into coming from Church World Service and the refugee and immigrant space. How has the reception been from partners of interacting with government? Now having like a government person coming in, has it been easy to build that trust?
Thank you, Commissioner Alum. The reaction, number one, I would say, from Church World Service, if Ellen was here, she will attest to that. They were devastated, but also happy. Happy in terms that I am working with the city and the county to advance the work that have been started in the community. And beyond Church World Service, World Relief, any other immigrants and refugee service providers that I reach out to, they are very happy and say, oh, Nayo, now that you're there, well, I am happy, we are happy, we're gonna work with you, and you will be our go-to person. Anything we want, we're coming to you, Nayo, and you wanna make sure that we got this, we got that. Yes, most of, all of the service providers, the organizations are really excited about the position, and much more excited, I don't know, because of Nayo. I don't want to be patting myself in the back, but I do have that good relationship with the organizations. And you can see behind me, some promise that they will come, but as you know, sometimes we are late a little bit, but you can see this support. It's already a huge thing for me to be sitting here and talking to you while having them as a support team. And that says a lot about the relationship we have with the Board of Commissioners and the service providers in our community.
Thank you. I have 2 more questions.
In terms of the Welcome City, yes, we will need to apply and have them come and assess what we have, and then work on the shortfalls, and they will come back to check that before they can certify the city and the county as a welcome city and county. That might take a little bit of time, but we will get there.
If you can send us like what they're typically looking for that certification, okay. Just interested. And then my follow-up question also around the mapping that you plan to do. Have y'all been able to connect with, we just got a new partnership with Haiti Reborn, which one of their goal areas is, their main goal area is to do mapping of all of the nonprofits and partnership organizations within Durham County that if you were planning to do that, maybe there's a way to integrate with their work since they're also doing the mapping. That was one note. And the last one, second to last one, the interlocal agreement, do we, maybe Manager Soel, do we know what the holdup is on the city side with that?
I do not know what that holdup is. We can follow up and get some information.
I can give you the broad strokes if that helps, because I kind of know at least the timeline. So the original interlocal, which had the position placed at the city, was signed by the city and the county in October of 2021. And when the conversation was had to move the position to the county commissioners approved that interlocal, that new interlocal, which had been shared between on April 11th. For some reason, it has not been approved formally by the city. I do believe this is an oversight. Some of the personnel who were involved in that's kind of above Nayo and myself, are no longer here at the county. And while I think there are some people, maybe on the city side, who are aware of that, some chip is missing that has made that connection, and so I think we just need some help facilitating that process. I really believe that the city is very supportive. I mean, certainly as evidenced by the fact they put funds in their recent budget proposal. So, and that say city and county. So I'm not sure that they're all aware that they haven't done that. So I think it's just an oversight with all the transition.
That's definitely something I managed. So the last question I have, the Office of Immigrant and Refugee Affairs. What is that looking like, and like, what do you need from us? What is your goals for this Welcome Center office?
And I'll jump in and say I have actually asked staff to not get ahead of us in surveying and doing a needs assessment, because I don't want us as a government to dictate what services would be provided as an office. That really needs to come from the immigrant and refugee community. So while we may have an idea of what we think would be good in an office, that really needs to come from the community so that we're responding to their needs. Although I know we may have some preconceived ideas of what that could look like.
Would you like, I mean, I think now I can share some initial things that, because again, we don't want to get ahead, but there are some models that we have looked at. And so maybe you can give some general, maybe some good broad strokes on the types of things that might happen service-wise.
Right. Thank you. So the Welcome Center prospect came through some conversation with the service provider community members. The best that we would do to make sure that the center is sustainable and is not just something we will just create so that we don't have it running at full speed. I think it will be, as the manager said, to have that need assessment and to have the community get it done officially, scientifically, so we have the data and we have all what it will need to function. Of course, the concept or the thought that we had initially to have the resource center. Sometimes we do not really have the services that will be at this center. Right? It will be I would not like it to be just created at this moment as a placeholder. However, I would prefer and really like that I put this in your thoughts while you also are having some thought about it, because this needs to be a thorough collaborative way, a collaborative between the board, the leadership, the community, so that we create something, we create a center, not something, we create a center that is sustainable. The sustainability of the center is what is the most important to me. Whether we create it today, tomorrow, is not really what I'm looking for, but I really would like it to be sustainable and serve the needs of the immigrant and refugee service providers, the immigrants and refugees themselves, the local government, and the leaderships, so that we are, in that way, we all know that we have a buy-in into the center. If we all have that, we become stakeholder in it, we will improve its function and why we do it. So this is what I think we should do, and take time to do the assessment, make sure that we have all the data in order to put together a center that will be sustainable for immigrants and refugee community. I hope I answer your question.
Thank you. And Nayo and Donna, thank you so much, especially Nayo, for this wonderful PowerPoint, and really helps clarify the complicated role that you have. I really admire in Durham County the people in the positions that are responsible for coordinating a system, basically. And from your description, it sounds like that really is part of what you consider to be your role, is reaching out to service providers and trying to help the services become more coordinated. You're also providing services directly, you know, with my leadership, my Durham, the Leadership Academy, and through other ways as well. And so I really think your 5-year, it almost sounds like a strategic plan. You know, at least it's a vision, and so I think that it feels really solid to me, that you've landed with, you know, really with both feet on the ground in a really strong way, and are going to make great strides in your role trying to help improve the coordination of services in the refugee community. And I also like your vision for the center that you described. We want to be sure that the service providers use it, the immigrant community uses it, the refugees, you know, so that would be a big, important piece. This is a budget work session, and you mentioned the needs assessment. I'm really all for needs assessments anytime we're about to put a program in place that is looking at a system. Do you have any idea how much that might cost, a range?
So I think we have a lot, as you know, in a cooperative extension, certainly with some of the other areas that we work in, we have a lot of experience with community engagement needs assessments. And there's been quite a range of how the county has spent funds in a variety of areas. We believe that depending on whether we get the Building Integrated Communities grant, which does come with a small $25,000, and that takes care of a little bit of that planning portion, so that the needs assessment and that grant could really work effectively together. So for example, if we got that grant, maybe it would be $75,000, because you would have to think about, you know, a vendor, also a lot of translation. But I think it could be done in a less expensive way based on work that's already been done in the community, than some of the other needs assessments that we've done and planning processes, particularly if the BIC grant. But I mean, we can also, I mean, this is based on our current experience with vendors. We have quite a bit of that, but we haven't priced the particular, you know, a particular vendor, but it would have to go through an RFP process regardless.
Okay, thank you.
I was gonna say, and Donna left out another point. She's very prudent. She has already tapped me and said, if we need money for the needs assessment, can we count on you? And I said, absolutely, yes. We'll make sure we find funding to cover that.
That's fantastic. And, you know, congratulations on your leadership of bringing the city and the county together to apply for this grant. It sounds like quite the opportunity. You've really accomplished a lot since August, and it's clear from this presentation. I have a few more. One final question is related to your work. I was so pleased to see Durham Public Schools and Durham Technical Community College on your list of sort of outreach partners, providers, that kind of thing, because it really does feel like that is a great doorway into the immigrant and refugee community, is through our schools, because the student population is so large in the immigrant and refugee community and in the English as a second language community. So I'm just wondering if you have any additional plans specifically related to the schools. It just feels like all roads lead back to our children, and the cooperative extension already has this, you know, parent advocacy course, the PFAST, and so I'm just wondering if you have any other thoughts about that now, and if not, we can talk later.
Thank you so much. Yes, we are working with the Durham Tech and Durham Public School. We have a working group that meets monthly, geared toward the immigrant youth in the school system. I'm working with Sashi at the. There she is.
There she is. Hi, Sashi Ryasam.
Yes.
And thank you to all the people in the community that are working with NIO that came today. Really appreciate you being here and your really important work.
So, yeah, in regard to the immigrant youth in the school system, I don't really want to get too far ahead.
Okay.
It's just a working group. We started, I think we had like 4 meetings so far. That stemmed from the fact that we have immigrant refugees coming to Durham. Some of them are beyond going to the Durham Public School, high school, and not old enough. Some are not old enough to go to Durham Tech. So they are in some kind of no man's land. There's no program that is over there to catch them. So we are entertaining the idea of creating a program that would help them and provide them a 2 option for most of them. For instance, some just want to learn English to go to work. Some want to go to college. If we take most of the immigrant and some refugee, for instance, from Africa, I can talk about that. To most of them, to make it in life, you have to go to college. So even when the children are like, we cannot really register them at high school because they don't have the background to be there. The parents like, I want my kid to go to school. I'll give the example of Togo, for instance. There's no age limit for school. We've seen older people who went back to school and start first grade and going to school with their grandkids. We can't do that in the U.S., but we need to have a program that is a safety net for this range of immigrants that wants to either learn English to go to work or learn English so that they can get a high school diploma. What is that going to be? Because we have not settled on that. That's why I did not bring that on my presentation.
Naya,
Yes.
I get that this is a really, really important issue for you to communicate this. I just want you to know, and the board knows, that the staff has put down 45 minutes for this conversation. And we've already extended that we'll extend it to 2 o'clock. And so if this side of the room have questions for you, I'd like to give them an opportunity to ask your questions. And we need to so you make your answers pretty succinct. And given that this is the first time you're having this conversation with us, you could make your answers succinct so that we can finish with your conversation at 2 o'clock. That would be great.
Yeah, thank you. That's the...
Sorry for asking such leading questions.
No. I think it's a passion for him.
Oh, totally.
I think he's, wants to give us
Totally.
a lot of information today.
He has a lot to give. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Commissioner Jacobs?
Thank you. I'm so glad that we are having this chance to have this conversation with you, and the work that you're doing is very important, and I really appreciate that you have stepped into this role. I would ask maybe the county attorney if you could follow up on the interlocal agreement see what the status of that is with the city. 14%, having 14% of our population being immigrants and refugees, that is a very large percentage. That's about the same as our Spanish speaking population. And I just want to share that I've shared this with NIO, I've been appointed to the NACO Immigration Reform Task Force. And at the first meeting I was at in January, I actually learned about a program that Lincoln, Nebraska has, and they only have 34,000 people in that whole county, Lincoln County, but they have a very robust they are part of the New America Task Force, which you mentioned some of that data from, because they're focusing actually on integrating their immigrants into the pipeline of being future city and county employees. And also, same what you were talking about, getting them to join boards and commissions and also to vote as they become citizens. I also learned about Hennepin County, which has a very, very robust program called Elevate Hennepin. And again, you know, they are really very focused on making sure that everyone has access to the fullest extent to the services that are provided, because, again, it's in the county's best interest overall for that to happen. So I think that, you know, us, as Commissioner Vaughn was mentioning, I'm very interested in us learning more about being certified. We've done that with Durham becoming an age-friendly community. And it's, I think, being a part of these, setting the bar high for ourselves and understanding what we need to do to reach that and having a plan is going to be important. And I'm also interested in the programs that you've laid out that do need funding, like creating a resource guide, or even the program that you're doing, the Leadership Academy. Anything that does need funding, I mean, you're only one person. So, you know, please let us know, because I'm concerned about making sure that the city and the county are actually supporting all these different initiatives that you want to do. One thing that comes to mind for me is with this Leadership Academy, and even you talked about training some of the immigrants and refugees to be ambassadors. Right now in our community, we are paying people to become ambassadors. We've done that with the Community Engagement Ambassador Program. We do that with community health workers. So one thing that came to mind to me, should we have, you know, some program we are, you know, paying people for their time and efforts as community ambassadors? That would also be a way to provide some financial support to immigrants and refugees who just get here, some type of stipend. But then it makes it easier on you if we actually have people that are going out and helping to, again, you know, connect people to the city and county services. And I'm really glad that you are forming a group internally with city and county staff, because we do have a lot of resources, but we know it is very hard. Again, you're just one person that everybody knows you and is, you know, creating those connections. And I also wonder, at some point, should we have NIO come and present at a joint city-county meeting in the future, so we can also have, you know, maybe when you're ready to do that as well. So I think that is it. Oh, I was going to mention too, in terms of the needs assessment, I think our community health survey is a good, that has a section on immigrants and refugees. So there probably are little pieces here and there that might help. But thank you so much. And I want to also recognize Sashi and all the other partners. You know, Durham Public Schools, every time a student comes, having to assess what their education level is. And it's so important that we get the parents and the adults who frankly come here, a lot of them with highly skilled. And how do we get them recertified so that they can, you know, use their skills in our community as well? So thank you. I really appreciate everything you're doing.
Commissioner Burns. I'm not calling you by the wrong name. I just
You do it weekly.
sometimes I have Commissioner Lom on my brain,
We know.
but I know who you are.
How you doing, Nayo? How you doing, Donna? I'm gonna give my time to you for my question. I saw Alyssa, your part one. I could sit here and tell you how great the presentation was, but I'm just gonna say ditto to everybody because we're on time. I saw a list of your partners. One of the things that I'm always concerned about is safety, right? So I can remember, you know, even back when CJ was here previously, when her and the sheriff would work together before your office, it's one thing to get support for programs. It's another thing for a language barrier to be the thing that prevents you from getting help. and I don't want that to be a thing. So I guess I'm curious, are we seeing folks in the community feeling safe, and are we seeing those partnerships with our local law enforcement, with the DA's office, so forth, with our nurses, with whoever, so that folks can get the help that they need when they go to law enforcement, when they go to the hospital? That's like my big question, because 14.8% is a lot. Those are a lot of different languages. And are we, not just as this county, the city, are other entities prepared for that?
Thank you. We are working with the Sheriff's Department. They reach out to have a refugee serve on the equity board. And we have a gentleman, he's not here today. There it is. Yeah. He is serving on it, and I'm very proud of him being there. That is the voice at that table. And that is the voice that that table needs. On top of that, through the My Durham Academy, we are having the Justice Department come and present, the Police Department come and present, and this is just to give the participant the opportunity to learn what the opportunities are and how to work with these different agencies and departments, and then take that information back to their community in languages that their community speak. So yes, we're working on it, and I will be very happy to invite you all to come and to our, all right, so yes, I will reach out to you when we are ready to close. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I just have a couple of concerns, and you don't have to answer them now, but I understand the philosophy and around the Immigrant Center. I'm a little concerned about a separate center. I hear that as a separation in our community, that we have to create a separate entity. I'm wondering if there's something could be considered where we've got a lot of spaces where people work together, a lot of agencies that work together. So I'd need to understand why it needed to be a separate entity. So if you could talk about that at another time, we don't have to talk about it today, because we work really, really hard to have Durham be an inclusive community, and to have it be a separate entity, I'd need to understand why we want to do that. So we can talk about it another time, but I'd appreciate understanding that. Yeah, because if every person that comes to Durham feel that different demographics feel that they need their own entity, what would we be building? Yeah, because we got black folks, we got Jewish people, we got white folks, we got all kinds, Hispanic, Asian, we got all kinds of people, and I need to understand, I'd like to understand what's the philosophy about having a separate entity.
Yeah, I would like to assure you that the Welcome Center is not and will not be a separate entity. There have been some best practices all around. For instance, at the Durham Public School, we have the Multicultural Center, which is geared towards immigrants and help them. The Resource Center, for instance, you're not going to be just alone in a silo. My vision is that the center will provide some services that are already in other departments. So it will be inclusive, but...
So you're not talking about a standalone center?
But again, I think
I think,
that'll be
Commissioner Harrington, we're
something-
not sure what we're talking about
Right.
quite yet.
That's where the needs assessment
needs
will
assessment will
help
come in.
us to identify how we could
And if
best.
we talk about standalone, we're really talking about an integrated state. I mean, it wouldn't be like some building somewhere. It would be some building that's connected to something else or in a, so I think we've all talked about something that would be very connected. So it's about
All right.
bridging
Well,
connections.
That, yeah, we can talk about it later. I just was stuck with that one because we don't want this, we don't need any more division. in Durham
No,
than
we
have
definitely are not aware of
already.
that. I mean, we have a lot of
So-
experience working with
Yeah.
these, with immigrant and refugee populations.
Okay.
And there sometimes needs to be able to have safe conversations and safe space.
Okay.
And that's really important for those communities. And that will probably be voiced in that needs assessment, so we'll let them share that need.
We can talk about it later because we need to move on to the next conversation. But thank you
Can I add
so much. And because this being the first conversation, we know we'll have some more.
And Madam Chair, can I just add one comment as we're wrapping up? I think, and the needs assessment will clarify this even more, but I think when we're thinking about refugees especially, we have to take into consideration that a lot of them are coming from areas where the government is not stable. And so there is a lot of concern with those parts of the community when we're asking them to come into government spaces. And so having is not to separate them, but is to build that trust up so that they can get over the tensions that they're coming to America with.
Well, I'm sure we'll have more conversations about it, Commissioner Lum. And I was just left with that vision that I just don't want to hear. All right, thank you so much. Yeah. All right, the next conversation is 230382, our mental health and behavior health discussion. And I don't have any names on here to say who's leading this conversation.
I know we have some representatives from our Justice Services Department, the Sheriff's Office, and Youth Home. Gudrun, you didn't hear that.
I thought your last day was just.
No.
Work until the
The
end.
last day was today, and I thought the event was today.
Good afternoon. Dwayne Brinson, Assistant County Manager for Community Safety.
All right.
So the next section of the agenda will be focusing on the mental health and behavioral health areas for the board. We're going to go as it's listed on the agenda, which is the Justice Services Department. Note the recent name change, formerly Criminal Justice.
Okay.
Then we'll move on to the Youth Home, and then we have our Sheriff's Office that will end the discussion on these topics. Now, very briefly, what we will be covering with these departments, the sheriff will be covering the opioid treatment program, medication-assisted treatment program, and the medical director, which also is being recommended in this budget. Justice Services, talking about FFI, familiar faces, as well as the Stepping Up initiative. And then Youth Home, be focusing on mainly the assessment center and what's being done around that, the timeline of it, and how we are working with the community on the assessment center as well. So with that, we'll turn it over to the Justice Services Director.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I am the Director of the Criminal Justice Resource Center because for 5 more, 6, 7 more days. And I have with me Roshana Parker, Assistant Director, and Renee Shaw, who is the Behavioral Health Program Manager, overseeing several of our programs, and she is here kind of as a subject matter expert. I hope you're well. Commissioners, Madam Manager, Mr. Attorney.
Sorry, Mr. Function.
It was interesting.
I'm sure.
It was big. Thank you. It was good. Thank you. So we are coming to you proposing 3 expansions, and some are more expansion than others. Our first request is for additional funds for our jail mental health program, and specifically we are asking to add additional hours to our psychiatric services contract. We have a psychiatrist under contract who is the mental health director. She currently provides 16 hours a week, and those hours are 2 days on-site clinic. Our staff provides all the support. She comes in, reviews medications, and also puts new, recently incarcerated detainees on medications. And she also has a partnership with the Duke Hospital, and they have been providing 4 residents, medical residents, this year. And so 4 residents give us a lot of extra hours. They come once a week, but next year we will only have 1 resident. And so we're asking to add additional hours to her weekly service. Not only is she doing the on-site, she's also available by phone to review and change medications. And she, based on what's going on in the detention center, she communicates with our jail mental health staff almost daily. So, and then additionally, we're asking for a few funds to purchase some therapeutic items for the individuals in our therapeutic housing unit, that is the mental health pod. And, you know, for example, we just purchased some radios for our clients so they could listen to the TV, and just different things to provide them something to do and keep them busy, and also just to give them some things that might help ease their minds a little bit during the day. And the third item that we're asking for funding for, it's not much, but we're asking for some funds to provide incentives to the female detainees who participate in the programs that our staff provides twice a week. And that is not just for mental health clients, it's for all the ladies in the pod that are approved by the detention center to participate. And so, you know, Valentine's Day or special, all the holidays, and then yoga, mindfulness, whatever the staff comes up with, and just some therapeutic, some clinical things, and just helping to provide some well-being and some mindfulness to the detainees. So not just for the mental health clients. That's our first request. Our second request is our Familiar Faces. I know you have heard about Familiar Faces initiative before. So what we are proposing is funding for primarily for 2 things. One is creating a data platform, either creating a data platform through our IT department, IS&T department, or purchasing an existing platform that will allow various agencies to communicate about a client. So we can enter a client and then do a referral, and the other agency will then know that this client is referred for services, and they can enter information whether that person was seen or what happened there. The other item is funding for cross-sector data analysis. And this is something that's really what NACO is emphasizing, and what the Familiar Faces initiative is. It's a data-driven initiative. It's not services. It's about connecting and understanding the frequent utilizers in the system, of a system, and then who who is seeing those familiar faces and what services are they receiving and what are they costing all the different systems, and how can we then better identify and serve them. And some of the analysis also to help us understand even what the volume is of who those those familiar faces are that go to Duke emergency room and then leave the emergency room a few days later, show up in the detention center. They leave the detention center a few days later. They are seen by EMS, and going through all these systems, and some of them are utilizing a lot of those systems. There are a number of communities that are working on that as well. Mecklenburg, Wake County has a Familiar Faces initiative that they are resurrecting. And then, of course, on the national level, it's, I think it's focusing on the highest utilizers and to hopefully create the biggest savings in long term. And then there's a little bit of extra money for our jail reentry team. Has some clients that are the familiar faces that we know so far. Some of the individuals that were identified through the downtown panhandling, for example. So when they come out of the detention center, we work with the HEART team, for example, but we're asking for funds like to purchase some cell phones for them and or minutes for their cell phones so we can stay in contact with them and also help them with co-pays and until we can connect them to providers to more long-term. That's second. Our third request is something that we I think you have heard before. Is the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council Durham County received $701,000 from the state Department of Public Safety. That's an annual allocation in the state budget. It is primarily to serve court-involved youth and programs can apply to JCPC for funding. It's a very sophisticated and elaborate funding and review process. Chair Howerton has been through that many, many times before. So you know how well-oiled this machine is. But those programs have to provide a 30% match. And the percentage of this match is determined by the state. They determine whether we are a 20, a 30, or a 10% county, and we are a 30% county. The match can be cash or in kind. And so the ask is to provide additional county funding to the JCPC so the programs don't have to come up with the 30% match in the future. And the funding that is proposed by the manager is overall it's 15% of the 30% for the match here, but that would go a long way for some of the programs that do struggle to find the 30%. This year, because of the timing, JCPC would determine how they want, if you approve that funding, how JCPC would determine how that funding would be added to the programs, and then if it's recurring funds, then they could incorporate that in their annual funding process and then make that recommendation to you in their regular process, and you approve the overall funding request. And
Gudrun, just a quick question. Did the state stop funding it altogether?
No.
I mean, at one time, they weren't asking for a match. Did they just start asking for a match?
The match has always been there.
There always been a match?
There always has been a match, yes, ma'am.
So I don't remember, maybe I'm thinking of a different one, but some of the grantees did not, the county didn't give any money.
No, that is correct. The county has never given county funding to JCPC. Right. Yes, ma'am.
Right. Okay. So the organizations had to do the match.
yes, the organizations usually come up with volunteer hours or some other, some have additional grants, and because I don't think you can match state funds, so the organizations have some other local donations, volunteer hours,
Gotcha.
the in-kind matches.
Thanks. I just wanted that clarified. Thanks.
And one more thing, while I'm thinking, there are a number of counties that do provide local funding to add to the JCPC fund. And then this is an additional funding request, and I think there is some, well, let me clarify, please. So our Stepping Up initiative did the sequential intercept map update, and one of the biggest shortcomings or gaps in our service continuum is a level of service for individuals who are very high need and high mental health needs and high risk, and that service is either a community support team or a assertive community treatment team, the ACT team. Those services there are some providers in the community, but those are primarily available for people with insurance. So and we thought we were asking you to fund this with the funds that Alliance paid back last year, that you took back from Alliance because it was due to COVID. They had some unspent funds, right? So that was the understanding of what we were basically proposing to you how you could spend the money Alliance gave you back. There is a proposal. The write-up is in your materials. It would fund this forensic community support team for basically 2 years, up to 2 years. Our thought is that the money would go back to Alliance, so they could contract with an existing provider who already has the infrastructure and already has most of the staffing established, but it would be very specifically for Durham County uninsured persons that are justice involved, which is the big part of our unserved population. And again, the thought is that with the recently approved Medicaid expansion, that in a couple of years, because these are existing providers, they know how to bill, they bill Alliance, they bill Medicaid, they have the infrastructure in place, then in a couple of years, the individuals that are now underinsured could be insured, and that it could then be basically self-sustaining and don't need additional county funds. And those, this was not in our budget request. Madam Manager,
You know I'm looking
I apologize.
You know I'm looking at you.
I know you are. That's why I'm like,
We'll talk after.
okay. June 1st. I'll be in your office June 1st.
And I'm just saying that because it's not fair that other departments don't have the opportunity to come before the board and make an ask for something that they didn't get in the recommended budget.
Yes.
Yes.
So, and I'm going to defer to Vice Chair Jacobs to defend us on that one.
So can I ask a clarifying question about these presentations in general? Are these presentations explaining some of the details of what you've already recommended?
Yes.
Not necessarily asking for additional funding.
Right. And so we polled the board. You all sent in recommendations of other initiatives that you wanted to see funding, and you will have an opportunity to bring those up from the board commissioners, from the commissioners.
So then does that mean like the extra 4 hours for mental health services is already in the manager's budget?
Yes.
Right. That's already in the manager's budget.
So this is
Yes.
this is the only additional.
And this is the one that's out of order.
Yes, ma'am. And we actually thought it was there was a little slush fund that you had somewhere else that was not part of your budget. So
So this is already in the budget, you're not asking?
this
for
one
more
is
money.
not, ma'am. The first three are. The first three are.
The first three are in the budget, this is the one the manager saying that you
Is out of
have
order.
not gone through the regular process.
Yes,
to-
because that was not part of our departmental budget request. That came through a different process.
Keith has been
What does that
summoned.
mean? So what does that mean for the rest of the staff, that it's coming to us now?
It means you're hearing about it now. Commissioner Jacobs sent an email to Dr. Sowell and myself and requested that this issue be put on a budget work session to discuss. And so we put it with this portion of the discussion because it was related to behavioral and mental health. Everybody's right and everybody's wrong. It's a decision made by the entire board whether you're going to have additional folks come and talk specifically about requests if one commissioner asks for it or all five. That I am not clear on who the boss is. I just know the commissioners are top dog, and when one says I'd like to talk about it, I put it on the agenda and then review it with folks. Having said
And
that,
the request,
right.
the
Save yourself.
the preferred format is we have a time set aside for commissioners to make their recommended asks. And I would prefer that it not come from a department because the other departments feel like, well, wait a minute. There are things that we could come before the board and ask for that we would like to have. And look at the sheriff raising his hand. He is the main culprit. So
to be clear,
I need to make sure that this is a fair and just process. That's what I'm saying.
to be clear, a couple of clarifications. This request is not in the manager's recommended budget. Do note the email from Commissioner Jacobs came on the 15th. The manager's recommended budget was presented on the 12th. So this request is that. I also want the board to know, had a brief conversation with Gudrun. Gudrun's in the middle of this. This is probably even more reason why she's happy to say, see you later. As part of the 22-23 budget, that alliance savings from 21-22 was budgeted to offset alliance costs. Technically, and this is a number issue, there aren't additional alliance dollars sitting in fund balance unspent from 21-22. Doesn't mean we can't do it. It's 6 one way, half a dozen the other. I can talk to you all about that later. But just for clarification, we budgeted $2 million of unspent alliance funds from 21-22 to offset their cost in this current year, 22-23. That money technically is spent, but doesn't mean we can't find additional dollars for different things once everybody gets in sync. We gave them $6 million each year. It only cost us $4 million of new county money because we used $2 million of. We were always going to give them roughly the amount they requested. It just means you had $2 million to spend on other things, or you weren't forced to raise taxes $2 million. Because you gave it. What you're saying is we gave it back to Alliance.
I have one more word of defense.
You don't need to defend anything. You're leaving in a couple of days.
I still need to defend it because it's really, this money will not be in our department. So this is a request to fund Alliance for something.
It's kind of a follow-up to the intercept map, the SIM, because we have asked a lot, what are the gaps in our services? Please tell us, and, you did. I don't know
We
when.
thought you had extra money.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Everybody's good, y'all.
Everybody's good.
I just want to say, I don't think that was ever made clear to us that the Alliance money was just folded back into the budget, because we actually had a presentation.
I was going to say there's more
Yeah.
context with that, and we
Yeah.
can bring that to you. That is correct.
Yeah.
Technically, a dollar is a dollar, but we did say we would come back
Yeah.
and appropriate dollars as needed.
Yeah.
And with the understanding, the spirit of it, but it's not, we can't set it aside specifically and say
Okay.
it's Alliance.
Yeah, I just want to be
But
clear because
you are correct.
yeah, we actually had a presentation about the gaps in our system and how do we address the gaps in our mental health system with the idea that we have this money and what are the gaps. So then we did the study, which is exactly the way the process should work, and the update to the sequential intercept map. And so if one of the attachments in this agenda item, you will see a detailed report that all of the stakeholders who literally went out and talked to the providers and said, what is the gap in our system? And that was identified, which is basically these are our most vulnerable residents who are just as involved, being released from the jail, who have no health insurance, and they can't get mental health treatment. So, anyway, so this is, whether it was in this part of our budget work session or in another, it's important that we have this information and decide whether we want to address it or not.
And one of the things and we did ask to find out the gaps. One of the questions that I have, Gudrun, but this research was only done for the justice involved.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so it has nothing to do with all of our citizens out there in the community. It's just
Yeah, because this is a forensic CST, so this means it is for, because
this is only a portion of the work that we need to do for the community. Is that right?
Yeah, the sequential intercept clearly, and it's not for the whole community. It looks at just how individuals move through the justice system and identifies the gaps. It does not imply that these are that it meets the needs or it identifies needs of.
Was anybody working on that? The other piece of it that would mean that you don't have to go see Clarence to get mental health?
That's a goal too.
So that's a broader conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Got it.
To your point,
I'm not aware.
Yeah.
You're not aware. Okay.
Well, that's why, Gudrun, you had recommended that we have do a behavioral health action plan, and we need a behavioral health manager because we need to do that community-wide assessment.
That's one that I started talking about way before we even did the intercept map, that the mapping is what this community needs, because otherwise everybody's doing a little piece of something, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that when we don't coordinate the work, we spend a lot of money and we don't know if we get the results intended.
Yes.
So we really still need to do the community mapping. And you'll be gone. We got that. It has nothing to do with this. Thank you. Yeah. Go ahead.
Do we have the strong sense that the players that would need to participate will participate and use this data platform, like Duke Health, for example?
I think Duke Health would potentially be actually exploring whether Duke would expand an existing project that they have to analyze, to add some of our data into it with if we gave them the extra money to do the analysis. So that could be a little bit more cost effective. Mm-hmm. But I don't think they will ever give us data. I'm being honest with you, because I think EMS has been working on a data sharing agreement with Duke, and I think most of that data sharing is one way.
Interesting. Okay, well, I was afraid of that, which makes me think we might need to look at other ways to.
That's why we are talking really many hours with our county attorney, who is looking into how this could work, because I think it's more a legal approach, and Duke has a lot of lawyers. But other communities are doing it, right? And have been able to come together. And I know in Wake County, the health systems are participating. So
Yeah.
there should be a way.
Mr. Manager, did Duke talk to us about, when we were at that last meeting, data sharing dashboard that they're putting together? So we are, the chancellor, Duke's chancellor's advisory committee or something, the manager and I was at that meeting, and they are putting together and to roll out a data sharing system. They haven't, it's not completed yet, but they did talk about it and share it with us. So that might be something that we need to connect with.
It might be, the time is ripe.
Reach out to Deborah Clark-Jones.
Yeah, that
about it.
Deborah Clark-Jones is part of it.
Mm-hmm. We're talking about other things with her. So she's on the FFI, on the Familiar Faces Initiative. So good, very good. Thank you.
Yeah.
I also wanted to thank Renee for your work. We haven't heard from you today, but I know that coordinating the mental health programs is a big job, and appreciate your efforts. Really important.
Okay, we
And
haven't heard from
Renee
everybody.
is
Yeah.
here, and we also have our researcher should be online, I think, if you had any specific questions about this request from the Stepping Up initiative.
Okay. Commissioner Jacobs?
Yes, I have some follow-up questions. I strongly support everything that the manager has recommended, which you have, elaborated on. I also support the request for the Forensic Act team funding, because I know this was identified as a big gap in the update to the sequential intercept map. And I do want to clarify, though, that the sequential intercept map, it maps not just involved people, it maps people in crisis in our community. And so it starts out at 0, and then what happens is, because we don't necessarily get them the help they need, they do end up in the jail. So, it is basically our crisis system. But I have a question about the psychiatrist. The reason I'm asking this is because it ties into my questions about a model for how we do the medical director for the MAT program. How many people are served through this model of doing just, having a contract with a psychiatrist and doing it that way and using residents? Just wondering, how many people are served through this?
So our psychiatrist works in tandem with our jail mental health staff.
Yeah.
That unit that you have shored up significantly over the several years. They do the intakes, they do the assessments, they get all the information, and then they basically prepare a clinic. So when the psychiatrist comes on site, then it's like you go to the doctor's office, the doctor gets one after the other, because the staff is doing all the legwork, getting the clients, and so the psychiatrist reviews meds and prescribes meds and adjusts meds, and then also work with the staff if there is someone who needs a involuntary commitment or needs to go to Central Regional Hospital. But the mental health caseload of the individuals in the detention center is about 160 inmates.
Okay, about 160 people who are being, so they're at a high level supervising, but obviously a lot of work is being done.
Right, and there are standards. The psychiatrist sees them, and then she has to see them so often to review the medication and adjust medication.
Yeah, okay. And how much are we paying for the psychiatrist to be as a consultant? I guess now it'll be 20 hours per week. You know?
The hourly cost, the hourly rate is around $150.
Do we know how much for them we're paying per year?
A little over 100,000, right? A little bit over $100,000.
A little over 100,000. Okay.
She's also the psychiatrist currently providing services at the youth home.
At the youth home too.
Mhm.
But that's a separate contract.
It's a separate contract. yes,
Separate
ma'am.
contract. Okay. Okay. So about 160 people are receiving, and they're on medication as well, but being supervised that way. Okay. That's helpful to know. Thank you.
But once someone is on medication, unless there are complications, she doesn't see them more than once a month,
Mm-hmm.
if that often.
Right. Okay.
Okay, Commissioner Long?
Thank you for this presentation, and I apologize, Gudrun. I thought your retirement event was today. So I'm sorry for missing it yesterday, but I'm really sorry about it. I was even texting Wendy, and I was like, I feel so bad that I missed this. But I'm very supportive of these requests. I'm really glad they're in the budget. I did have one thing. It's not really something for this budget, but just since we're talking about the Familiar Faces Initiative, just wanted to raise and have it on top of our mind as a board that this was something that came up during our budget conversations one-on-one, well, two-on-one that we had. I was with Commissioner Jacobs, and I know Manager Sewell, we talked about this, the Connecting the Familiar Faces project that Wendy has been spearheading with trying to create like a universal program within our systems of services for individuals of, who's using social services more, who's using different services that the county provides, but also finding a way to connect it with like the library and taking like the IDs and, adding photos to IDs so that way folks have access to a photo ID that can then be used like in the future for other things, like especially since I know the attorney is looking at me now, but voter ID is going to be coming down next year.
We work with our clients. We get them birth certificates, we get them state IDs,
Okay.
all that.
Yeah, I was thinking like, when we were discussing like how do we get the library card that people have more frequently to be universal and maybe connecting it into these Familiar Faces initiative could be a avenue.
Interesting.
And I'll just say I did have a conversation with our Director of Elections as well as ACM Hall, and that seems like a very viable option for us. And so we're looking into how we can do that with the IDs.
Cool. Thank you.
Anything else that you have? Okay. That it?
And then we have the Sheriff's Office.
All right. Thank you so much. All right.
We're going to transition to the Youth Home Assessment Center this time, and then the sheriff will come up after the Youth Home.
Okay.
Thank you, Gudrun. Thank you, ladies.
Hello, Angela. How you doing?
Good afternoon. How's that daughter?
Yeah. Are you gonna slide up to that mic?
I will, thank you. All right. Okay, good evening, Commissioners, Chair Hamilton, county staff, and our county residents. It gives me an honor to present my fiscal year 23-24 budget to you. The new youth home. It is scheduled to open in summer of 23. The priority one budget requests are for the assessment center and administrative support staff for the infrastructure of the new facility. The funding and current staffing supports the utilization of 16 to 24 beds in the new facility, depending on the vacancy rate at opening. No additional youth home counselors and operational expenses included in the recommended budget to open all 36 beds. Additional updates to share with you is the Department of Public Safety, Division of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention raised the daily detention per diem rate effective July 1, 2023. Durham County youth at our facility the state will pay $153.38. Juveniles that are housed at the youth home and are out of county, the state will pay us $300 per day. And Durham County fees to house a youth out of county is $150. And that is an increase of about $15 from the previous year. Community engagement. We held a listening session on April the 28th of this year. There are plans to hold a second session, and then there are plans for the facilitator to provide an update at a future Board of Commissioners work session with you. The Assessment Center. The Assessment Center will be a holistic and a community-based resource hub for at-risk, court-involved juveniles and their families in crisis and connect or reconnected services, promoting a collaborative nature and working with stakeholders to integrate best practices, reduce duplication of services, ensure access to effective supports, and ultimately prevent or divert from systems involvement. Programming will take a multifaceted approach and deliver evidence-based assessments to assist children and families in need of intervention and preventative service in the community to address the juvenile security, mental health, and educational needs. The Assessment Center, again, as I like to reiterate, is a resource hub for at-risk youth and families. This space is for different agencies that touch children and families. We have system navigators who will be in the Assessment Center, and these are our core providers in our community. That is the Department of Social Services. We will have Alliance. We will have the Juvenile Court, District 14 Juvenile Court Councils working with us, and we will also be working with Durham Public Schools. We will have varying hours to accommodate families and youth. This is a collaboration with other partners in the juvenile justice system, mental health agencies, our schools, youth serving organizations, and nonprofits to ensure support. We will also be working with our JCPC providers that Gudrun mentioned earlier, who have an array of services such as mentorship, parent support, tutorial, job readiness, triangle literacy, working with them on their education, youth mediation, and restorative type justice agencies. I have also requested additional funding for our mental health clinician through Alliance, and I have also requested additional resources for our WellPath jail health contract for our psychologists. Those two positions that I have mentioned, it is hoped that when those hours are increased, they will also provide some support to us in the Assessment Center. And that includes my discussion, and it is open for further discussion with the board at your pleasure.
Thank you. And thank you always for the work that you do with young people in the youth home. You've been there for quite some time, so thank you. I just have one question before I pass it over. The assessment centers, so from what I understand through the documents and what you just said, it will not be open to community per se to have access to it.
It is open to the community. Anyone can be referred to the assessment center. A youth may be self-referred. Anyone can refer a youth and or family to the center. Law enforcement can refer children and families to us. The school can do the same. Parents can call us and come into the assessment center. And of course, juvenile court can refer cases that. So it is open to the community who are in need as long as they are young people under the age of 18.
Okay. I guess my question is a little bit broader. It will not be used for other things other than referral of youth?
Right.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at.
Right. There are no other agencies or resources such as maybe a vocational program or something like that.
Yeah,
In the
if someone
center.
wanted to use it for something other than referring of youth, it would not be accessible to them.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, Commissioner Lum, Commissioner Burns. I don't know why, I don't, forgive me.
How you doing, Angela?
I'm
Just-
well,
just
thank
right.
you.
God.
We just look so much
Forgive me,
alike.
Commissioner Burns, I don't know why I keep doing that.
I'm gonna be quick.
And I've asked for forgiveness, that's all I can say.
So, you spoke about, one, thank you for all the work that you've done over the years and how you've tried to move this forward. I know two things. Let's see. So I know you said summer 2023, and those 7 individuals, even though we're doing a step because you're going to have to hire some more, those are the folks who are going to aid you in being youth counselors, right? Those first.
No,
It's a two-
that is for the infrastructure of the assessment center
Thank you.
staff. That's the program manager and 2 case managers.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
And
So it's a-
then we will have some additional infrastructure for the new youth home. We need to increase our staff, and we need an administrative officer.
right.
We need, some administrative work.
Well, no. So no, that helps because when we got it, it was 7. I was wondering if it was broken up. So no, that still helps.
Right. Phase
Still a
2 and
proponent.
Phase 3 are not funded, which is increasing the youth home counselors' positions at the youth home.
Right, so that, yeah, because we agreed on the step. The only reason why I kind of bring that one up, I know, we did a resolution not too long ago about how, we did a resolution in support of Billy Lassiter.
The Department of Public.
Yeah, I had to get his name right, about the pay that we didn't see in some of the detention centers. And we were just at a school board meeting, and I said, how are you all doing with recruitment? And one of the tools that, and it wasn't Dr. Hardy, I forget the other individual's name at this point, but she stated that one of the things they really worked on, she says, once we can get somebody to intern in Durham Public Schools, they usually want to stay. So I'm trying to, is that a tool that we're using? And because I know you have to hire for this phase, the next 2 phases, and I want you to be successful because there was a lot of pushback in the community, and I want to make sure that we got good people in there. So is that one of the things that we're using outside of income and, pay increases to say, hey, this might not be a bad place for you to work?
Well, and we also, in the past, have hired our interns from the local universities. That is a good pool of people to come in and work. They come in for the internship, they get experience, they learn how to do the job, and then we hire them if they're interested. I also participated in a career resource fair in the community, trying to get additional people. We have plans to reach out to North Carolina Central University in the fall and their career center to see if they can assist us with sending individuals over for employment and things of that nature. So,
I know you're working.
yeah, I spent an awful lot of time screening applications and setting up interviews. And to get a full day of interview applicants that you've reached out to and accepted the interview is very difficult because we get ghosted quite a bit.
Last question, just from a creative standpoint. You listed some partners. Who's a partner that you don't have right now that you wish you had?
In the assessment center or the
In the assessment center, because we got law enforcement, you got the courts, you have the schools. Yes, a lot of these young people have some very serious criminal backgrounds, but not everybody does. So maybe if there was a partner you wish you could have.
It would be really nice to have a resource for employment.
I knew that's what you was going to say.
Yeah,
So,
that would be really great.
Outside of Workforce Development Board.
Outside of Triangle Literacy Youth Bill, there are JCPC providers, so we would be reaching out to them. But it would be really nice to have some vocational opportunities for our young people. Because if they're employed, they have less time to be in the community, wreaking havoc on the community.
Yeah, okay. So that's some homework for us.
Yeah, so that
About
would
how
be
we can
really
be more
nice.
creative around that. I'm going to stop my questions now and give the rest of my time to our board. Thank you so much.
Commissioner Burns, I want to talk to you about the recruitment question real quickly. Last month in our Community Safety Department meeting, got to give credit to the sheriff. He had a good idea about recruitment and maybe creating a video or some marketing material about what it means to be in public safety in Durham County, like a holistic community safety recruitment message to show people what kind of impact they can have if they work in public safety in Durham County. So that's something we're looking at for all the departments in the portfolio as a means to, because recruitment's an issue in all the community safety departments, and it's something we need to solve. And hopefully that kind of creative thinking will help make some progress in that area.
Yeah, thank you. So Angela, I'm very excited about the assessment center and it being a resource to the community. You know, when I read the JCCPC report, and I know I mentioned the other day about us being able to dig into this a little more deeply because the data is just really concerning. I don't want to read off all of the numbers, but when we compare ourselves to the state, for instance, family domain, 42% of our juveniles who were involved, you know, who with the system have a runaway history versus 22% for the state. 52% answered yes to alcohol and drug use versus 38% for the state. Mental health, 35% diagnosed with mental health disorders. I mean, on almost all of the measures, we are way above the state average. So I really hope that with this referral system, which basically anybody, when you look at this, anybody could, in crisis, can say, I need help. And especially, I think we're going to see, a lot of parents who, and it may be even through the HEART system, through the HEART program.
Yes, I spoke to them doing my community engagement around the community back in the fall, and they're really excited and are willing to assist as well. So I have them in my toolbox as well.
Great.
They also suggested they would love to come out if we have a situation currently now at the youth home and our youth is in crisis. They would come out and provide services if we needed that as well.
Great. So. And now with our Family Justice Center, too. You know, kids who have been exposed to domestic violence that, you know. So I think this is going to be a really, really great resource. And then also with Alliance rolling out the MOORS program, which is going to be the mobile crisis unit for children and youth. And I also want to emphasize DSS. And I can connect you to our new DSS director if you have not met her yet. But she really comes from a strong background around child welfare. But again, we're trying to be upstream, right, with the Families First Prevention Act. And I think as soon as we can get people upstream the help they need, the better off that will be. I know you said you had a listening session on April 28th. Was that with the key stakeholders that we're already aware of?
No, that was with the stakeholders who oppose the building of the youth home.
I mean, okay, that's what I meant. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, well, I'm glad that
we are working with them, and hopefully there will be a second session. And as I stated, then the facilitator hopefully will come back before the board in a work session in the near future to let you know what he discovered and if there are any low-hanging fruit or anything that you can grasp and work with the community on further. But I do like to thank you all for the opportunity to fund the assessment center. And we are really excited about it because for the last 29 plus years I've been in here, I've received numerous calls and I have families showing up at the door seeking assistance in crisis. So I know what the need is. And I just ask that you all be patient with us and let us get our sea legs, and our foundation. And I really do think this program will grow as you all know, we start a program and things kind of balloon and we find other ways to connect with other people and do other things. And then hopefully maybe there can be some grant funding or something that we can find to also assist us in that efforts. But just thank you for the opportunity to put the vision out there and get the work done. So we're really excited.
And Vice Chair Jacobs, those listening sessions, those are the sessions that are being facilitated by Mitch Silver.
Okay, great.
Those are the ones. Mhm.
Yeah, and obviously with our, I don't see Crystal here or Joanne, but the community intervention and support services, all of those folks, both City United.
Yeah, they are working with us in the assistance, and they have already committed.
Great.
To working with us. So,
yeah. We've got lots of pipelines.
I really do. So we're excited to get the work done and get started on it. And hopefully in the summer, the building will be open and we'll get started and help our citizens. So. Mm-hmm. 2015, I think. 2015. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. If we can reach them early, we can prevent some of the ills of the community. You know, we can keep them in the community and perhaps provide the mental health needs that they need so that they are not offenders in the community. As we know, many years ago, the stats were 85% of children who come into juvenile detention have at least one or more dual diagnoses. I think that has risen a little higher since COVID, and we're probably looking at well over 90%. As we look at the children in the facility now, most of them, I would say clearly over 90%, have mental health diagnoses of one or more. So yeah, that's what's coming into detention these days. So we have a lot of work ahead of us.
I just wanted to make one comment of just saying thank you to you for, I know you're reaching out to the groups and individuals who weren't supportive of the youth home, and I just want to say I really appreciate that initiative that you've been taking, because there was a lot of passion and personal impact when we were having this initial discussion about the youth home extension. So for there to be leadership in the youth home that didn't want to just, got the money, got the new building, closed off and moved on, but to actually engage and bring those voices in, I really, really genuinely appreciate that as a commissioner, because it makes it easier for us to go back in the community also when we have these more sensitive discussions.
Oh, well, you're quite welcome. It's hard work, but, we want to engage with the community as much as possible.
Yeah, I agree with that, too. I was going to say the same thing. I had no idea that your engagement session was with some detractors and some who were, you're right, were very much opposed. And these are also the same people who do share a goal that I know we share, which is to have 0 children in our youth home. And hopefully the assessment center, when it's fully operational and when the community knows about it, will indeed be a resource that will help that happen through prevention. I feel like your presentation indicates that you're ready to open. Thank you so much for getting this off the ground and for all your years of care for our children. I did have one question about the budget. page 71 in the budget book, where that's the youth home page. And, there's a 57% increase in personnel costs, which makes sense because you're hiring new people. I think over 7 FTEs, new people. But what I don't understand is that it says there's a 2.5% increase from the recommended this year's amount versus the original in 2023. But if you look at the actual in 2023, wait a second. Oh, and operating, sorry. Let's look at operating. Yes. The estimate for this year, right, is $346,000, and $269,000 approximately is being recommended. And with the additional assessment center, it's just hard for me to imagine operating costs going down.
I don't have that page before me. Perhaps Keith's team can address that better than I.
And you could answer later if you need to. Or
Hi, Commissioners. Heather Walker with the Budget Office. That might be the mid-year increases that we've had to have to house juveniles out of county. So we aren't, we hopefully, with the opening of the center, won't have to house as many juveniles out of county, if any juveniles. And so we've had to do these increases mid-year to house those individuals. And that shows up in operating. Yep.
Okay. And so hopefully we will not have to house our children out of county. That is something that we do not wish to do, but unfortunately we have to do it for safety of the juveniles that are detained as well as the staff.
Thank you so much.
That would explain the decrease.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Anything else for you, Angela?
That is it. Thank you again for the support.
Thank you. Thank you for all your work.
Madam Chair, we will transition to the Sheriff's Office now. And as we do, just a quick comment about Director Nunn here. This has been part of her vision for more than a decade. Having in 2023, it's a cutting-edge best practice, but to think about 10 years ago, her having this vision, that's impressive.
She's a class
Very
act.
impressive.
Yep. It's wonderful to see it come to fruition. You know what? It's wonderful and it's sad. So it's dual. It's wonderful that it's come to fruition, but it's sad that we have to have it.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Good afternoon.
County Manager. I'm Sheriff Clarence Burkhead.
No kidding.
Yeah, it's always a privilege to come before you all, and I have my team with me as I always do. These are the folks who get the work done day in and day out. And in the interest of time, you already have the documents that are contained in the manager's budget recommendation as it relates to the Office of the Sheriff. So myself and my team are here to answer any questions that you have.
Question, Commissioner Jacobs?
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, I just have questions about the model for the, the next phase of the MAT program, and these are questions I have that if you don't have the answers right now, that's fine. You could just follow up with information, but
speak up a little bit.
Sorry. So a few questions that I'd like to understand is what the data is around and the rationale for a full-time medical director, just in terms of, how many people are being served at any one time by the MAT program is one of my questions, and why we need to have a full-time person. I know that, what the role is of WellPath currently and the other, because I know you've been operating the program with your own staff and with the help of WellPath, and we're providing, I know the county, about $1 million to pay for the MAT program. And just to understand, I know we want to move up to the next phase of using methadone in addition to the Suboxone and the buprenorphine, but to understand, you know, and just thinking about the model that we have now with doing a contract with a psychiatrist, just to understand the data and the numbers that justify this, you know, full-time position. And also, I'd like to understand how this then affects the WellPath contract in terms of what we're currently providing them to do. So that's part of the information that I'd like to understand. The other is kind of the proper kind of dotted line to this position, because right now we have the WellPath contract, and the physical health contract has always been under the public health director supervising that, ultimately, that contract, because obviously that's where the expertise is related to healthcare. And then we also have substance use programs and our mental health programs being under the soon-to-be called Justice Center, and so the psychiatrist contract and all that is supervised through CJRC. So again, there's kind of some checks and balances there. So that's what I'm trying to understand. Where is the proper location for this position as well in terms of being supervised? Either, you know, for me, it's logical that it would be, I just want to understand where's the correct location for that, whether it's public health or Justice Center or Sheriff's Department, where the ultimate reporting happens. So those are just some of my questions related to it. And again, if you don't have that's fine. If you just follow up later on with some of the data that I asked for, that would be great.
I think I have some of the data, or I can answer some of the questions. It would have been helpful to have those questions prior to this conversation, but nonetheless. To address proper location, it resides in the detention center because we started the MAT program back in 2019, and we run the MAT program in the detention center with my staff. That is the model that is across the country. And currently, as we sit here today, Pitt, Wake, Mecklenburg are all following the same model that we are currently following and proposing, to include that they all have asked for a medical director that reports to the sheriff to manage the MAT program. So this is not foreign. Again, you've heard me say that we're leading the way, and we're continuing to do that. So the proper location is in the jail. And just for a point of clarification, none of the programs that have been mentioned today that are currently in CJRC would be possible without the cooperation of the sheriff's office and allowing those to be inside the facility, because I have to sign off on those programs and the personnel that comes into the jail. That's state law. As far as the impact with the WellPath contract, there is none. WellPath does not provide us MAT services. I am sure that they would be happy to, and I think the last conversation was for additional $2.3 or $3 million added to the contract. We can do it cheaper in-house, and we can do it, in my opinion, better. WellPath currently operates MAT in, I think, Massachusetts. In Massachusetts, and their population is about 1,100 inmates that they see in Massachusetts, but that's the only one that I'm aware of that MAT is managed by WellPath. And to your question about why have a medical director, to go to the next level, it's a federal requirement. We cannot go to the next level if we don't satisfy the DEA's requirements, which we've already met with the exception of the medical director. And we also have the public-private partnerships in place for the soft handoff that's also recommended as a best practice. And as far as the numbers, just from September the 3rd to February 6th, we saw approximately 844 individuals 225 of those, or approximately 224 of those, came in already on an OPT program. There is federal law in discussion right now, and part of the Americans with Disability Act, that we as sheriffs must be able to provide that continuous care or will be liable. As a matter of fact, there's a lawsuit underway right now, a federal lawsuit for an agency that failed to do that. So once again, we're ahead of the curve, and we are getting out in front of what is going to be mandatory probably by year's end or next year when the law passes at the federal level. And as far as to say, I think I'll stop there.
Thank you. So do we have, at any given time, we have 200, you're saying we have 224 people right now who are in the program?
Today's numbers, you're asking right now today?
Yeah. Yes.
She'll get that number for you.
Okay.
It's not 220, it's not 244. Those are numbers from September to February that have come through our program and that are currently receiving our services, if they're still incarcerated or if they're not, because we have that soft handoff, but they also, through our peer support program, come back for assistance, and we also give them a med kit when they're released.
That's okay. Yeah, I'm just curious how many people at any given time are being...
Well, there are 364 people incarcerated in the jail today, and approximately 65% of those either suffer from an addiction or mental health. And currently today, it's 27 people inside.
Okay, 27.
27 today.
Okay. Yeah, so I guess that's why I'm trying to understand why we need somebody full-time for... You know, it would just be interesting to know that. I understand we've got 160 people who are under, you know, who are receiving medication, and we're able to contract for that, and just whether it's something that we could contract for rather than having somebody full-time with 27 people. You know, that's just one of my questions.
Could I do a quick follow-up along? Okay, so since we're on that subject, and that's not to cut anybody off, so I guess I'm always thinking, when I read medical director, I didn't read medical director to say medical director for this population. I read medical director in an umbrella. I'm thinking, you know, everybody likes to make a lot of hay about, you know, oh, we're doing more, you know, healthcare in the jail than we're doing out on the street. I hear people saying that, and the argument that I usually make is we as a county, you as a sheriff, have to take people on spec. If the person that you pick up for trespassing is in stage 4 liver failure, is that not something that the medical director has to deal with?
Yes.
So
yes.
So I'm trying to, so I hear everybody saying it's just 27 people, but we're thinking about a specific subset. That's not the people. How many people come in there on dialysis? How many people come in there with breast cancer? I seen a presentation not too long ago from the women's prison where, but for the fact that they put a mammogram machine in there, they started catching women at stage 1, whereas they would have caught them at stage 4, and that would have cost millions, and these women would have had to sit here and go through 2 and 3 and 4 and suffered and been in pain. So for me, when I think about a medical director, I'm not thinking, I understand the law, I understand MAT, but I'm thinking about the preventative services that we're going to be able to catch. Somebody who is, I know we're past COVID, but what litany of medical issues do y'all not have that just fall on your doorstep every day? High blood pressure, heart failure, lung failure, kidney disease, because that's what people are living with on the street. So just help me. And the reason why I'm in support of it is because we have some very, very sick, infirmed individuals who are on the street due to no cause of their own in some circumstances. And I personally want somebody there who can make an assessment on the spot. So just somebody on this panel tell me if I'm like way off, because that's why I'm in support of this.
Can I just get clarification? Because this is supposed to be just for the MAT program, I thought, because we already have a contract, and I don't know the amount, but we spend,
right.
Who can tell us for WellPath is our actually runs our health clinic and is the provider of the medical care in the jail. This is something separate. This is just for the MAT program. So I just want to clarify that.
Sheriff, could you clarify that? I mean, I'm not trying to be funny.
No.
Like, a doctor's a doctor. A nephrologist can still sit here and make an assessment of a heart patient.
Yes,
I
that
think
is
we
correct.
can all agree on that. WellPath is, I won't say what I want to say, but, sir, answer my question, please. I got
Commissioner Burns, you are spot on, and Commissioner Jacobs, you are spot on. The medical director's primary focus will be the MAT program initially. However, we've already heard from my partners that we don't have enough hours for our doctor now. So it is by design going to be overlap, which is a good thing because we do have affirmed individuals who come in with chronic illnesses. So when our current contract doctor is not on site, the medical director who's doing MAT will be there to work closely with our WellPath partners. As a matter of fact, talked with them earlier this morning about this model, and they are in full support of it. So it's both. And right now, we have individuals who are on dialysis. We have folks in there who have sleep apnea. We have just a litany of medical issues that we have to assess every day. And again, the doctor's not there all the time. So this will be in addition to that. But the primary focus is to get the MAT, OPT, OTP program up and running. Because that's a population that we, again, we're going to be mandated to serve either now or in the next 12 months.
And another quick follow-up. I'm trying to think also about some of these facilities that the state and the General Assembly is funding, where they're like, we're going to put 10 beds in this county, 10 beds in this county. I remember a couple of years ago when USDA funded, I think, 6 beds in like Cumberland County. I could be wrong. I know that Robertson County was looking. So when I hear people say 10, 6, 5, and they have full-time medical directors, and then you say 27, to me 27 doesn't seem like a small number. To me, it doesn't now. Because is there a ratio that we know, county to county, state to state, on what a full? Because you don't have a lot of facilities that are 20 and 30 beds. Right. Not unless it's privately funded, right. And quite frankly, these are people with money. I think maybe in Asheville there are facilities that are a little bit bigger than that. I know the gentleman taking over as the president of the County Commission Association. This is going to be one of his big pushes because he lost a child, and then somebody else lost a sister, and they were all in this kind of mega facility. But are we seeing? I guess I'm used to seeing press release 5, 10 beds. And that place is fully staffed. So if we can fully staff 10 on a daily basis, 20 or 27. And so I'm just curious because, I'm only one voter up here, but what's the number? What's the ratio that we usually see?
Hey, David LeBar, Director of Planning and Development at the Sheriff's Office. Thank you for your point. It's well taken. I think that we need to maybe not look at the number, but realize the complexity of what this is, whether we're treating 1, 10, or 200, and that we make sure that we maintain these MOUD protocols, not just on a weekly basis, but a daily basis that will help us mitigate other potential problems in the future if we not manage it appropriately.
That answer
Wait
your
on your
question,
data
Mr.
later.
Burns? That answer your question? Okay.
I have, thank you so much, Sheriff Burkhead and your team for this presentation and getting this to us so we had time to review it as well. I have to slip out a little early. I told the manager, so I wanted to ask very quickly, just a follow-up on Commissioner Burns' comment for more clarification. So currently the contract that we have with WellPath, so not for the MAT services, but for the other medical care that they provide, has that contract been sufficient in providing the medical services that are needed within the jail right now, in the detention center?
For the most part, yeah.
So then, follow-up to that, like, if we had a full-time medical director, then would that reduce the contract with WellPath if they would be taking on some of the work of WellPath?
No. No. Again, the medical director that I'm proposing here today, just like Commissioner Jacobs pointed out, is primarily going to focus on the MAT program. And again, it will provide an overlap in support of our contract provider, WellPath, and what they do for us. And again, I think that's 16 hours a week or 20 hours a week, I think it is. So there will be some overlap. So no, I don't see that this position would reduce the hours or the need for WellPath to continue to provide their services.
Okay. Thank you. And then my second question was on a different subject around the vehicle replacement. Obviously, I know this is a standard process. I just had a question around the type of vehicles, mostly just wondering, like, are any of these, or can the county refrain from investing? I don't know if this is what you're planning on doing, but in ghost vehicles. Or are any of these going to be ghost vehicles or just replacing the vehicles?
I'm not familiar with the ghost vehicle.
The sheriff's department cars are like
Sheriff's office.
Sheriff's office cars are police vehicles that have.
You mean the gray one? The
Yeah,
gray
what
one
you
that was painted one time?
They are.
That one gray car y'all got.
Again, are you asking me, am I going to paint these cars a particular color
No,
or a
like
decal?
The vehicles.
Unmarked.
The unmarked.
Unmarked
Yes.
vehicles.
Or not,
No, there's a big difference
There's a
between
big
unmarked
difference.
and ghost.
But I know what she's talking about. Because there's a difference between unmarked and a ghost car. The ghost car is like that gray silver one that kind of like looks like Kit when it's coming up above the sun and you can't see it. That's what she's talking about. Because there was a photo and I know that car. It looks like a mirror. I'm saying gray. But the ghost car is the car that you can't see. So are you asking?
see that tell like it's a police or sheriff's vehicle from a certain angle.
Right.
And I think the sheriff's department has some of those already. The gray ones that Commissioner Bird's mentioning.
I think Commissioner Lombs is trying to figure out, in the event she speeds down 70 and she sees a silver bullet coming, is it you?
Yeah.
And
So
your question is?
for these replacement vehicles, are any of them going to be replaced with those type of ghost vehicles? And can we keep them to be just standard marked, fully visible vehicles?
Perhaps.
Can you provide further detail on that?
Perhaps.
I mean, perhaps. I mean, I don't really have an answer to that because it's a decision that's made not by me. It's not just by me. It's a decision based on need. So the answer is perhaps. And ghost vehicles, which is an odd term because they are quite visible, have been around for years. And I'm certainly not the first sheriff's office to have any. Durham City Police has a fleet. Yeah. So perhaps.
I'd like to thank you first for the information, for your work, for your leadership. Second thing I want to say is I find it incredibly awkward as an elected body to have to make a decision about the budget of another elected official. It's difficult with the sheriff. It's difficult with the Board of Education. And, you know, I can sort of touch the palpableness of this in the room right now.
Think about how we feel.
Well,
I'm sure that makes it hard too. Anyway, it's a weird relationship, right? I am very proud of the fact that Durham County, under your leadership, has led the way, pushing the envelope with our MAT program in the jail, and I'm thrilled we're going to have another office treatment program, OTP, that does require a medical director, right? I get them confused. There's OBP, there's office-based, and then one of them requires the medical director, and I assume that's the type of program
Yes.
you're going to have.
OTP, yeah.
My only question about where that position resides, because I think we all agree the position must be there because we want that program. It's really important for our community. What's the difference between that position and the position for the psychiatrist, for example? In where the positions are housed.
Well, that's a very good question. I'd like to have my own psychiatrist too. I mean, if we want to talk about it, because we deal with these folks 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The biggest difference is the medical director and the person that we will seek to hire is an addiction specialist, not just a primary care physician. Now, obviously, that's the underpinning or the undergirding of their training, but they are specialized in treating individuals who are suffering from opioid use disorder and other addictions. We actually, as an aside, we just received a grant to introduce Vivitrol because of people who are dealing with alcoholism. So again, we're trying to treat as many individuals who come in my care and custody as possible, and a cross-section of ailments or addictions. So that's the biggest difference, and because right now, I'm responsible for this program inside the detention center.
That answers my second question, which was the qualifications of the doctor. So you answered that. They need to have addiction medicine specialty as well. Shift gears a little bit.
Sure.
I'm excited about the fact that you're going green with your vehicles. So that makes us all happy, I'm sure. And I wanted to ask about your Animal Services Department. I sit on the Animal Welfare Advisory Committee, and it comes up always in the, I guess we meet every 2 months, but it always comes up, the number of calls and the number of positions, and it seems like Durham County has grown and the number of calls have increased. The response time is really low. But they're not enough manpower, woman power, people power to have weekend hours if people pick up strays. This came up last night, actually. So anyway, I just wondered, are you considering what do you call it? Repurposing positions, any positions, go to and to increase the number of animal services officers?
The short answer is yes, in respecting what the manager's request of me was. I had not prepared to talk about that ask, but it is in my budget presentation that we shared with the manager and Mr. Brunson a few weeks back. So yes, I would love to reclass some positions to address the shortfall of personnel in animal services, because as you just mentioned, our call volume has more than tripled since we took over animal services in 2012. And we're operating with the same 9, I think it is, FTEs, and our call volume, again, has tripled in that period of time.
So you are planning to do that then?
Yes.
Oh, fantastic. And will any of those be?
Say fantastic again.
Well, what I heard was you have unfilled positions that you're going to transfer to animal services,
Yes.
and I think that's fantastic. Because I believe, and I'd like to acknowledge 2 of the officers, the sheriff, the captain, and
Yeah, Captain Manning and Lieutenant Pinner, please stand to be recognized. Jesus.
anyway, Captain Manning does a great job of managing the division, and Lieutenant, did I get it right? I really do not understand titles. Anyway, I wanted to publicly acknowledge them and thank them for their amazing work. And they work really well with our shelter that also does amazing work.
That's in their packet.
Oh, one more question. Would these positions be, what's the difference between civilians and not civilian? Would they be civilian? Will they carry weapons? I guess that's the question.
Civilians do not carry weapons. They're not armed. They're not deputies. So these will be basically a dog catcher, if you familiar with that term from years back.
Yes.
So civilian personnel who are trained to work in the animal service industry, basically.
Okay.
There's, I think, Rowan County. Is that right? Rowan County is the only sheriff's office that currently has that model still in existence. So my team has been in communication with them to see how we can incorporate those non-sworn, non-deputy individuals into the ranks. Yeah.
I mean, I like the sound of that too, because I think it's another way of, decreasing, unnecessary interaction between the community and armed law enforcement in ways that could end up going awry, not because of any ill intent on anyone's part, but just because it sometimes happens. So I think it's a really interesting move to try, and thank you for your leadership around that.
Thank you.
Sheriff, thank you, and all of your team for the work you're doing. I just have one question, and it might not have come to you yet. The HEART program. Have you had any conversation regarding the HEART program recently?
Yes, I've actually been working behind the scenes since its inception. And so very supportive of the HEART program and Director Ryan Smith. We talked about it before the program was launched. And we have recently had conversation about how we can expand the program throughout Durham County.
Okay.
And it's about their resources and how we can partner with them to be a co-responder model.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, we're scheduled to have a meeting earlier this week when just schedule conflicts. But yeah, we are very supportive of the HEART program and already trying to figure out ways to get it in pockets of Durham County in the unincorporated area once they're staffed enough. My emphasis is always going to be co-responder. And he and I have had that conversation for almost 2 years now on how we can work together to make that happen.
I know the city put more resources in the program, but I didn't know how much conversation the county is having with the sheriff. But I'm glad to know that. Thank you. Other questions, concerns for the board, Commissioner Jacobs?
I just wanted to acknowledge Attorney Lovelace, who was not here the other night when we talked about the solution to that Attorney Massey brought forward, and really appreciate you being a part of that compromise and that the partnership that have hashed that out together. So thank you. It's exciting that we finally have a resolution on that, which I was on Animal Services my first term in office, and that was an issue then. So it's been a long time coming. So I know you were one of the people that was mentioned who was a part of that. Thank you.
Okay, anything else for you?
Madam Chair, and if I can ask the sheriff to introduce Ms. Gaither too. I don't know if she's been with us before in this role.
Good afternoon, Commissioners and County Manager. I am Keisha Gaither, the new Finance Manager at the Sheriff's Office. It's a pleasure sitting before you today.
So you take care of it, make sure dot the I's and cross the T's where the money is.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, gotcha.
And she's doing a great job. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thanks. All right. All right, do we have one more presentation? Foundation, yes. Hi. Okay. And this one is.
And
right.
so I will.
This is not going to be 75 minutes.
Hopefully it won't be.
It is not, right?
Right.
How much time do you think you need?
Half an hour at most, depending on how much you want to discuss.
So
Kind of depends on us.
Right.
Well, how much time do you need for your presentation? And then these folks will manage themselves.
About 15 minutes for the presentation.
Yeah.
15 minutes?
And
Thank you.
And
All
if,
right.
Madam Chair, can we ask our attorney, he sent an email to us
Yes.
right before this, but if he can go ahead and provide a summary for why they're before us.
That would be great. Thank you.
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. So this is a part of the government process, but a little bit new. This is a legislative interaction with creation. We have a special taxing district that's specifically carved out in the statutes for RTP. And forgive my not full understanding, but I do think that RTP, the geographic entity, is represented by RTF, which is a created organization that may be not-for-profit, I'm not sure. But the Research Triangle Park is represented by the Research Triangle Foundation. And they essentially are a statutory creation, certainly RTP is. So the powers that have been sort of separated and vested grant the park, I'll call it that, the ability to determine appropriate tax rates for that special taxing district. And as they are not a levying or collecting entity, that is done by governmental entities like Durham County, like Wake County, and to a lesser degree, the municipalities within the counties. The process goes a little like this. They come before you or provide you information regarding tax rates, or in some cases, tax rate increases that is supported by data, as going to be provided here, I suspect. And then that is presented to you as the body. And then you receive that, and then you, as the levying and collecting entity, need to make a decision about that. And the traditional way that such is done in this body is you have the annual budget ordinance that comes before you for your vote. It is composed of the presented budget by the manager, and apparently each little meeting we have, there's a new request. But in any regard, all of that is put together in an ordinance that is presented to you for a vote. It is noticed, it is provided to the public for knowledge, and though it is not necessarily in the form of a public hearing, I have been told, it is an agenda item. But you debate those items much as you have today, and then you make a decision, and then it is incorporated into the document, and it is put forth. Because it is a tax on citizens, and they are citizens of Durham County, or they are property owners, thus citizens in Durham County, and because the park, as I understand it, borders, or its borders include Durham County, and perhaps a portion touches Wake County. Yep. So the taxes that are charged there have impact in those two counties' citizens and property owners. So that comes before you. You take a vote, and whatever that number is, it is incorporated into the tax rate for this district. And they have notice of it, and at their next tax assessment, those things are included. But this presentation should provide you the justification for whatever recommendation is coming. And the detail can be provided verbally, though it's preferred in writing, and you sort of answer the questions. But this is a kind of a unique collaboration between a non-governmental entity and a governmental entity. The power as deemed from the legislature by the creation of this state, by the creation of counties, rests with you as the levying authority based on information that's collected or provided from these good folks.
And there's no vote today.
There's not a vote
just
today.
Just a presentation. Okay. Thank you, Attorney.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So if you would introduce yourselves, that would be great, and go ahead and get started.
Right. Thank you for that. That was great context setting. I'm Linda Hall.
Pull your mic up a little bit closer.
I'm Linda Hall. I'm the Executive Vice President and CFO for the Research Triangle Foundation.
And I'm Travis Creighton. I'm a Senior Planner and Project Manager with the Research Triangle Foundation.
So good afternoon, and thank you so much for this opportunity to come before the commissioners, Madam Chair, also County Manager. Delighted to be here to talk about our our proposed tax for the 2024-25 year. I am going to, unfortunately, given the timing of the meeting, Scott Levitin, our CEO, is not able to be here. He couldn't change his plans, so we are here on behalf of our CEO. I'm going to turn it over to Travis and let Travis go through the presentation, and then it'll allow us time for any questions after his presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda, and good afternoon, Commissioners, County Manager, County Attorney. Good to be here with you this afternoon and to share our request with you. We do have a very brief presentation that will mostly provide you with some context. Attorney Andrews gave you a great synopsis of a lot of the legal piece of this, but I'll walk through a little bit of the history of our tax district and the governance, how that works, and what we typically spend these revenues on. And then I'll get into our specific rate increase request for the upcoming fiscal year. So again, just to provide that overview, and this again will echo much of what you just heard, but our RTP tax district is a creation that's authorized under North Carolina general statutes. That district is coterminous with the park boundary, so that includes both the Durham portion of RTP and the Wake portion of RTP. It's one cohesive district, and that district is authorized under the state statute to provide any services that a county or city may provide under state law. So those funds can be used for any of those services in the district. So the funds are required to be expended in RTP and for the benefit of RTP companies. Under state law, the tax rate, the property tax rate authorized is set at a maximum of 10 cents per $100 in assessed property value for a general tax rate. And then there's also a provision in state law that authorizes an additional up to 10 cents for exclusively expenses on public transportation only. As of today in FY23, the tax rate for the district is 7.8 cents of that general rate. And the public transportation tax is not being levied currently. So that rate is at 0 in FY23. So just to echo again a little bit of the history of this district. So while we colloquially refer to this as the RTP tax district, its formal name is the Durham-Wake Counties Research and Production Service District. That's the name from law when this district was created. It dates back to 1986. That is when the Board of County Commissioners of both Durham and Wake counties in that year received a petition from the landowners in RTP as required under the statute to create this district. That process was created in 1985 by the North Carolina General Assembly. In addition to the creation of the district, the state law also authorizes the assignment of administration of those funds, and the counties, when they created the district, then did enter into a contract with us at the Research Triangle Foundation upon the district's creation in 1986 to administer those tax district funds. So that's just a little bit more context to what you already heard from the attorney, just to give you a little bit of a sense of the unique relationship that we have here today. I also want to just spend a moment to explain where this request is coming from and a little bit about how the tax district is governed. So under the state statutes that create our district, it also creates what's called the Service District Advisory Committee, or SDAC. This is a committee of 13 members. The way that this committee is appointed is the RTP Owners and Tenants Association, which consists of representatives of all RTP landowners as well as RTP companies that are tenants. They provide both your board and the Board of Commissioners in Wake County with a list of recommended members for that committee. You receive 2 names for every seat on that committee, and then you choose one of those names to then take those seats that are allocated to Durham County, and Wake County does the same thing. So then those members that are selected from that recommended list that originates with our companies are appointed to the Service District Advisory Committee. That's 10 of those 13 members. The other 2 members consist of a representative from each county. Since the district's creation in 1986, those have been the county managers of both Durham and Wake County. And then the last member comes from us as the original owner and developer of Research Triangle Park. RTF, we receive 1 developer's representative on that committee, and that is Scott Levitin, our CEO. So the request that we bring you today comes directly from this committee. The way that we administer this committee typically is we have a planning committee, a planning meeting with them, typically in February of each year, to say, here's the projects that we're thinking about for the upcoming fiscal year, and to get their feedback and incorporate that into a revised proposal that we then bring to them in May for a vote. So that is the process that we followed this year. And so the request that we're about to talk about comes directly from those representatives who are representatives of our park companies. And that's essentially what you see here. They basically provide those recommended expenditures, including the recommended tax rate, back to both boards, this board and the board in Wake County, to approve those recommended expenditures and the recommended tax rate. I'll also just give a little bit of context of what we typically spend the revenues in the district on. There are sort of 6 categories we've historically used the revenues on. The first one is sort of a range of committees and programs that support our park companies. Some examples of that include our Sustainability Committee, which is focused on sustainability initiatives for the park. We also have a Security Committee that's focused on safety and security, bringing our park companies together to think about collective security needs of their campuses and the park as a whole, things of that nature. We also have 3 recreational facilities that the tax district has built and now maintains over time. The single largest expense we have out of the tax district on an annual basis is our roadside mowing and landscaping contract. NCDOT does not do that in the park. We overtook responsibility for that with the creation of the tax district, and so we spend about $800,000 a year maintaining those right-of-way landscaping. We also have 3 dams and lakes in RTP. They're in the southern portion of the park, so we're also responsible for annual maintenance and inspections of those facilities. We also have a trail network of about 20 miles that was constructed using tax district revenue and is now maintained using that revenue. And then occasionally we do provide other public services. The current example is our RTP Connect service, which is our first last mile transit connection service in RTP. We pay for that with tax district revenue as well. So the request that we're making today specifically concerns the tax rate for this district. So there are 2 pieces to this. The first is that we are asking for a 1-cent increase to the general tax rate to raise it from 7.8 cents to 8.8 cents. And for the first time, we're also asking for a levy on the public transportation tax, that additional 10 cents that authorized. We're asking for a 2.5 cent levy today. So that would take the total rate for RTP companies from 7.8 cents to 11.3. In terms of the general rate, we're making this request specifically to set aside funds for future safety and security improvements in the park. This has been a common concern raised by our park companies over time. There have been several recent public incidents in the park, including a recent car crash, and some companies have also experienced long response times in response to safety incidents they've had. So there's a strong interest in our park companies of having more revenue available to implement safety and security solutions as we're able to identify what those might be. And we are in ongoing conversations with county leadership about what those potential expenses might be. The other piece of this is, as I believe all of the commissioners are aware, our Hub RTP project is currently under construction and moving along very well. So we do anticipate having the first residents in RTP starting summer 2024. They'll move into those apartments that are currently under construction. And with those first residents in the park, we recognize there'll be a higher need for safety and security services than currently provided in the park. We also already have a strong retail activity at BOCC, and that will only expand with the opening of Horseshoe RTP and additional retail activity as those buildings come online. So we're putting aside this revenue now in anticipation of all of this activity coming on, in addition to the existing public safety concerns that have already been identified in the park. And on the public transportation piece, I know many of you on the board are well immersed in the conversations about what the future of regional transit will be. RTP, just due to the nature of us sitting physically at the center of a region, stands to benefit from many of these potential transportation and transit improvements if they are made. So our companies have authorized us, and they are supportive of this 2.5 cents that we've asked for to essentially be put into reserve. So while we don't know today what our regional transit solution is going to be, we will have some revenue set aside for when that decision is made for an RTP contribution to implement that service. We provided the examples to them. You know, this could be, if the commuter rail proposal moves forward, it could be an investment in that, an RTP contribution for that RTP station. If it's a passenger rail service served by Amtrak, Likewise, it could go into that. We already have on the books a proposed bus rapid transit line to Cary, and I know the Durham Transit Plan, which I believe you all voted on last night, we're very excited to see move forward, has a number of projects that would also touch RTP that this revenue could be used for. So I started this job about 2 years ago, and one of the very first questions I got is, when is RTP going to levy that public transportation tax? And so from my perspective, I'm excited to be here today to ask you to let us do that and provide an RTP contribution for public transit in Durham County. And also on the transit piece, I did just want to provide this map to you all to give a context of all of the transit that is potentially going to touch RTP. So this is right on the border of RTP. You see Miami Boulevard right there on the park boundary. We own about 20 acres that historically has been known as the Triangle Metro Center site. It has been identified by Go Triangle as the preferred site for the Regional Transit Center relocation. So we are working very closely with them on that plan, and if commuter rail does move forward, this would also be the location of that station, or if it's a passenger rail solution served by Amtrak, likewise, that would be on this site. So we've separately invested $200,000 of RTF money, that's non-tax money, that's our foundation money, that we're putting in to study this site for potential transit-oriented development in coordination with Go Triangle. So this is just to exemplify that we're very serious about public transit, and we want to make sure that we're working with you all and our other regional partners on making this possible. The last piece of information I want to provide for you, and we provided this likewise to our RTP companies, was just to compare what an RTP company pays in tax at a tax rate compared to our regional municipalities. So that's really what this slide provides here. And this does include the proposed tax increases that the county here is proposing, as well as the other counties in the region. So we did provide this information to the SDAC when we brought them this proposal for their vote, which they did unanimously support these proposed rate increases. And our takeaway here is really just to provide for you that even with these additional rate increases that we're asking for, the tax rate in RTP, including the fire district that serves RTP and other areas in southern Durham County, those overall tax rates for our companies remain below our neighboring municipalities, respectively in Durham and Wake County. So while we are asking for an increase, it does still provide a lower tax rate and benefit to our RTP companies than they would see if they were in the city of Durham or Raleigh or Chapel Hill. And we're happy to answer any questions that you have. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this presentation, and we are really glad to hear this conversation. I think we have all been wanting and waiting for it to happen. So thank you for the presentation, and we will entertain questions from the board. Commissioner Carter.
Yes, thank you for the presentation. Great justification for the request, I would say, altogether. How much money percent do you anticipate generating from the tax?
So I'm sure Keith will keep me honest on this, but I believe that on the Durham County side alone, just the Durham County part of RTP, a 1 cent increase is about $230,000. For the entire park, including the Wake County portion, it's about $430,000 for a 1 cent tax increase.
All right. And it was really interesting to me that you said you could provide any services that a county could provide by general statute. Like you could provide a school, or with that money, if
these funds could be spent on a school,
on education in some way.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Well,
as long as it provided benefit to the park or was located in the park, that would check that box under the state legislation. I will clarify, I'm not a lawyer. This is not legal advice. That's the one thing they taught us in grad school to always say. So I do just want to make sure I put that plug in there.
Well, that just just gives interesting thoughts for the future, perhaps. I think I have another question, but I can't remember what it is. So go ahead and move on down if you'd like.
I wanted to follow up on you.
Okay.
And my question and understanding is that we are looking for these funds to support transit. Is that
and public safety?
And public safety. So the one, correct.
Yeah.
Yes. So the 1 cent general tax rate increase we're asking for, we would put that into a reserve. We haven't identified what those specific solutions would be yet, but as I mentioned, we are in ongoing conversations with senior county leadership about what opportunities might exist to address some of those concerns and also to be prepared for when we do have residents living at Hub RTP. So our request really is to prepare us for when those solutions are identified. We do have that revenue set aside. And to your earlier question, Commissioner Carter, that $430,000 is not a lot of money, and so part of why we're asking to put it in a reserve is knowing that with our current valuation operations. We can't generate significant revenue. So while this is for a future expense, it lets us be prepared for when those solutions are identified in a better position than we would be if we were to come with you later and ask for this increase and we don't have any money set aside.
Thank you. Mr. Jacobs.
Thank you, and thank you also for I'm really excited that that you all have taken this action, because this has been something that's been talked about since the light rail, honestly. And I know, Manager Stowell, you are our rep to the committee as well, so thank you for serving there. Yeah, I totally support this. I think this is really important that, you know, frankly, the companies in RTP need to step up. I mean, they really do need to be a partner in helping to fund these public investments that we need. And you know, since this is really going to be used, especially for the public transportation, revenues are really going to be set aside for future needs. Are they going to be literally put into a separate account or earmarked that way?
That's correct. So because it is a separate rate under the general statutes, it will be in a separate account and reserve exclusively for public transportation. So the way our accounting manager has sort of proposed that in the budget and will set up that account is those funds will be maintained separately. So at a 2.5 cent tax, that's about $1 million a year. And so until those projects are identified and committed, that money will be separate from the general rate revenue and could not be moved.
Right. And related to the general rate funds, I know, again, the need, there's going to be increased need for public safety. Will those be also earmarked too, or not?
They've been, the way it's set up in the budget is it'll be set in a reserve, again, for public safety, anticipating a potential future project that those funds would be set aside. So it is earmarked in a reserve. And we've done this in the past with our tax district. Prior to Hub RTP, we knew there would be public infrastructure needs that our companies were supportive of and providing that. And so this replicates that approach that has been taken in the past for the tax district.
Okay. And then I know the map that you showed, you know, RTP is literally in the middle of any type of regional transit solutions. And, you know, maybe could we go back to that map? Is it the one that, yeah. And, you know, it's going to be really, really important that very thoughtful planning is done around how we make sure that that's a multimodal site there for BRT, rail. And also I was wondering about the bikeways plan, the Triangle Bikeways plan, which you all are actually already contributing to that, which...
That's correct. And it is actually this tax district revenue that is going to fund our design portion of the Triangle Bikeways. So we have earmarked $485,000. Those are actually in FY23 funds, but because the Campo will administer that contract in partnership with Wake County, that'll start on July 1. So those funds are reflected in the FY24 budget as rolling forward to be contributed to Campo. Combined with Wake County's money, we'll do one single procurement to do design from the western end of RTP at I-40 and TW Alexander all the way to the Wake County terminus at 440. So we'll join with Wake County to do that design, and then once that's complete, we would anticipate seeking federal funding for construction.
Okay. Yeah, so we're behind on this.
Yeah.
And so we hope that when we start doing our planning, you'll be partnering with us as well. But I was wondering if you were going to also look at how the bikeway will fit into the Metro Center, the multimodal site, as well as getting to the airport.
Absolutely. Those are both items that are hot topics of conversation with our consultant team that we're funding with this $200,000. We do want to make sure that whatever design we have for the Metro Center site anticipates that bikeway connection, and then we are in conversations about what an airport connection would look like. You know, we understand if the commuter rail proposal moves forward, there's been a proposed RDU connection from the Morrisville station. We're still interested in understanding what a potential connection from RTP might look like. So that's definitely part of the conversation with whatever regional transportation solutions we advance and how that fits into RTP.
And my last comment is just, I'm going to be echoing Commissioner Howerton here. That is, I think it's really important that you all are a part of our conversations. When there are a lot of regional conversations going on, and especially with you all stepping up now with this tax and the study, then it's really important that you all are that we're all talking to each other and that you all are included. So we need to make sure that that happens.
Absolutely. And we appreciate that and welcome to be a part of any conversations as they proceed.
Say again, will all the funds be into one account, or will it be separate accounts?
So the public transportation funds will be maintained in a separate account because that rate, those funds under statute cannot be spent on anything but public transportation. So that money will be set aside in a separate fund. And then for the general rate increase, that'll be as a part of the overall, it's the same bucket of funds, but there's a specific reserve reflected in the budget for that allocation for public safety. And that's an approach that we've taken in the past with our Hub RTP project. The public infrastructure received some of this tax district funding, and that likewise was put into a reserve on an annual basis to be expended on those over several years.
So it will be separated according to counties as well?
No, so because the district is a single district crossing both counties, it's one overall funding source for both counties. It's not separated by county. The way that, as the attorney explained, the revenues are collected at the county level separately, but we receive them into one single fund because the funds can be expended anywhere in the district, regardless of county of origin.
Gotcha. Thank you. Good to know that. Okay. Commissioner Burns?
Mine is really, really quick. It's 3 comments, 3 questions. So one, I echo the sentiments of my colleagues that I'm happy the company is in support of it. I remember the first time Commissioner Lam and I got to meet with Scott, he told us, even when you all were building Boxyard in the midst of the pandemic, like companies kind of had to double down and they said, no, we're committed to this, we're going to go ahead. So I can appreciate that type of expansion. Y'all are doing some great stuff out there, even the DI work that I'm seeing. So we get a lot of emails, but I'm mad at y'all because y'all topped off the horseshoe and y'all can come in here and ask for money and everything else, but I ain't get no invitation for the top off of the horseshoe. But that's okay. It looks beautiful, so I'll let it pass. I think one of the other things that I kind of picked up on that I'm excited about is my first time meeting you, sir, so good to meet you. So, and you sound like you know what you're doing. I hope so. As an attorney, sounded like you knew what I was doing. But the reason why I'm super happy is because the 2 people who kind of sort of manage our money and the individual lender who manage their money are also both our TBJ, Triangle Business Journal, Women of the Year in Finance. So that was a shared, so that's what makes me happy. We can talk about all this money, but I got 2 people who got awards managing money, managing this money. So I feel even better. Linda, you hadn't been here since you won it, so congratulations to you. I did want to throw out really quick, so you, and these will be rapid fire. So you, when Commissioner Carter just asked about how much money it was going to be, is that 10 cents going to be an additional $230, or does that entire tax rate get us $230,000?
The additional 1 cent is
Thank you.
$230.
So yeah, so it's a whole lot more money. Okay, so great. So that 1 cent is additional. I will take my last one off because it was really just about the contract for 7,000 acres for y'all to cut all that grass. But IBM probably cuts their own grass, so I'm gonna skip that one. You all have apartments that are opening up. My quick question is, when I think about public safety, think about people moving here, I'm interested to know how many apartments and are any of them set aside as affordable?
So for the first phase, the first 3 buildings that are currently under construction, I believe that's 506 total units. For this initial phase, there are not affordable units in that initial development.
Well, I hope it'll be a goal for the next iteration.
It's definitely a goal for the next iteration. I think we were at a time 5 years ago when we entered into an agreement with MAA, who's building the phase 1 residential. It just wasn't in the economics. I think we've proven with, I'd be remiss without mentioning the $20 million that, the county and the commissioners supported the hub infrastructure. The precedents that Travis is talking about, 10 million of that infrastructure was from the RTP companies.
Right.
And I think to add to it, which really isn't part of the budget discussion or the increase, because we are truly taking that 1 cent and putting it aside in a reserve, much like we did for the parks company's contribution to match the $20 million that Durham County put in. But we have beefed up our security this year. We're entering into a contract. It's about $400,000 to have a more robust security in RTP. Only $70,000 of that will come from the Durham Wake Service District budget. The rest of it, the foundation is paying out of our own operating budget, and it really is just a stopgap until we can get to, you know, as the commissioners, as Commissioner Jacobs has mentioned, a collaborative solution to security, enhanced services in the park as we bring residents in the park for the first time in its 64-year history. So we are taking that on, and it is largely centered around Boxyard, the high school, the Frontier campus, and also Hub. So we are definitely taking it seriously in terms of our investment and minimizing the public funds to really set aside this reserve to help us have a more robust and permanent solution to enhance services.
Okay, and the only reason, just so to clarify, not the reason why I asked that was not to put y'all on the spot. I just, you know, when we even have the conversation about bus rapid transit, when we have the conversation about affordable housing, who's going to work in service here, Scott, even though he's absent, has always been very passionate about these issues. And the reason why I bring it up is because we need partners that are passionate about those issues. And if you all are passionate about it at the top, then I feel pretty confident that it'll be, you all will make sure that those 300 companies know that this is something so that they need to invest in, especially as they try to attract workers. So that's the only reason why I built it up. I do know you all are good partners, and I just want you all to continue to share that message, because everybody's not going to work in the building. Some people going to clean the buildings, cut the grass at the buildings, will provide auxiliary services. That your space is a force multiplier. We just want to make sure that as it multiplies, everybody can multiply with it. But I thank you all.
Absolutely, absolutely. And just to address the lack of invitation to the topping out, just a little bit of background. The topping out is a celebration for the construction and team, and so we kept it really small. I addressed just the team that was on site. We would have loved to have all of you, and I just wanted to explain it was a really small celebration for no safety incidents, and then, you know, topping off the last piece of steel. So
I'm so picky you. I need to get hit in the head with you. But thank you.
Thank you.
So I appreciate this conversation, and you can tell us what we need to do next, but I want to reiterate my concern as we go forward, and I say this to Wake County, that we work collaboratively, that we don't have these silo conversations that, and nobody knows, you don't know what the right hand's doing in the left. I've said this to Scott, and I am asking that as we go forward, because as a region, if we don't do that, we're going to end up in a mess.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We completely hear that, and we are a collaborative and willing partner, and we hope to continue these conversations to arrive at a solution that's going to work for all of the region.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Chair,
Thank you.
Really, I'm sorry. Just because both y'all in the room. So I heard the public safety and then the transit fund. So since RTP is mostly in the county, I imagine that that's going to be a relationship between these two bodies. And I'm pointing at the sheriff when I say that.
That is correct.
So that's, as you're beefing up public safety, I guess that you all, maybe in the future, it's an EMS station, it's a sheriff station, it's all of those things. Am I making those up, or?
Not at all. And like I said, we are in conversation with county leadership, with Dr. Sewell and her team, with Sheriff Burkhead and his team. Those are ongoing, exactly about what the solutions need to be. But you're spot on with those conversations that we're targeting.
So we've established quarterly meetings with Research Triangle Foundation staff and our leadership team to make sure that we're all at the table and having the same conversation, going in the same direction. Thank you.
Okay, so Attorney, was it anything else for you? Anything else?
That's all we have, and I think from a procedural perspective, we've proposed the tax rate increase, and I think at this point it would just be included in the budget document for your adoption if you concur.
Absolutely. All right.
So I would say that it's our decision, but we might want to clarify at some point who the rate affects, since we've now, I think I'm hearing, we're converting from, business commercial to residential. If I heard them saying that there will be residential during calendar year, 2024, those are new people affected by a dual tax. So we might want to just be, clarifying when we do whatever rollout on both ends, because it's a different category of taxpayers coming into that district now, I think, if I understood, if I followed.
Do you mind if I, yeah. So the residents that will come in for the first time will be multi-housing rental. So the developer owner will incur the tax in the special tax district. So the residents won't be paying tax per se, real estate tax per se. It'll be the owner of, which is MAA.
Okay.
So in the year 2024, you are correct, but it wouldn't be homeowners or homeowner constituents next year. Just still.
Would it ever?
Back to Commissioner Burns, vision, and our vision is, yes, we're going through a planning exercise, RTP 3.0, and I think many of the commissioners and county manager have seen that presentation. So in our long-range planning, yes, we're in the process of working through that feasibility study now. Mm-hmm. And to the commissioner's point and county manager, we are working collaboratively as we move forward with that plan.
Because the tenants and potential homeowners are the only voters in that district. So just that 2 cents.
Okay, well, we will trust our attorney and our manager to put that together for us and let us know what we need to do next. Okay? All right.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you. All right. All right. Anything else? I see Keith coming this way. Is it coming this way? What is it?
He's just coming to see if you all have any other questions or directives for us.
We go home now.
Just to clarify as it relates to that tax rate increase, the manager's recommended budget had no tax rate increase for any fire district, including the RTP district that just came and sat, because it hadn't been presented to her. If you choose to do it, we will add this to our add delete list, and we'll start showing you that at the next meeting on June the 1st, but it'll be part of the add delete list. It just won't be general fund related. You will then say, we are agreeing to put this on, and then I'll put it in the budget ordinance, a 3-cent tax rate increase or 3.5-cent tax rate increase for the RTP district, if that's what you all say you want in there. And then you will approve that budget ordinance on June the 12th. Remember, the budget ordinance approves the general fund budget and some other funds in that, but it also approves tax rates for fire districts and special revenue districts, including RTP.
Okay, all right.
And yes, are there any questions or comments?
Can you tell me what's going to be on our agenda for June 1st?
Yes,
so that we can get out of here at a reasonable time. I've got something.
That's a long day. That meeting on June the 1st is 9 a.m. to 4:30.
It needs to be a short day. So that's why I want to see what we can have on the agenda and what we can have at another day. I've got a doctor's appointment, so if we can, the doctor's appointment was made before we did before that. So if we can manage that, I'd appreciate it.
So the only option would be to move some things from that 1st to the date that we really didn't want to use of the 6th, but that is why the 6th is there, but it is certainly up to the commissioners
Yeah, I mean, people have, it's okay if you have to leave. I would
Go
just
that
say.
if that's what the board desires, fine. I do that.
What time is your appointment?
My doctor's appointment's at 2:00, and I can't miss it.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, I know Commissioner Lom had to leave early today.
Yeah, so if the board, whatever the board's desires, I would just have to leave.
We had on June the 1st, I'm sorry, I have it on my computer. I was not prepared to throw it up for you guys, but just follow me here. DTCC and Economic Development. And just listen, write these down and listen to them, and we can move around adjustments, which ones come first rather than second. Yes,
And we also sent it, it's an email, and what we can do is resend the email so that it'll be at the top of your email, so you can pull it up too.
If one of the DCMs or ACMs, did we send that to commissioners? If one of y'all could resend it to commissioners, you could then see what. So DTCC and Economic Development was one, and we had that for 45 minutes. That's largely talking about some of the increases in DTCC and how they're working with economic development on workforce-related issues. Pre-K update was for 45 minutes. That is in other education. Are you talking about Kate Elander? Kate was going to be a part of that conversation. We can add that, 45 minutes for both of them. And then we had any other or deeper conversations about classification and compensation at 90 minutes. And I think that got us through the morning, 9 to noon. That's the initial setup. Afternoon was food security update for 30 minutes, largely talking about the $532,000 recommended for food security grants. And then the two big ones in the afternoon were stormwater fee updates and relations at 60 minutes and the sewer utility fund. Remember, the stormwater fund is going up significantly. Y'all have had some blowback from that. Some folks come and talk to you. And then the sewer utility is out there at Triangle Wastewater Plant, but that's also fees to RTP. So it's all in relation. Both of those, stormwater was 60 minutes and sewer utility was 60 minutes. That gave you about an hour or a little bit more than an hour at the end of the day, knowing we tend to run long on some of these. But we can move those around. So you have a list. As Dr. Sowell said, we can move some to the 6th. We can keep them all here and keep the ones you're interested in and have those before 2 p.m.
Whatever the board decides, it's fine with me.
Excuse me, we will also add ARPA for a short conversation as well on the 1st.
And Keith, I know you also, I'm almost done going through the budget book to send you a list, but I do want to put out there that one topic that I know for sure that I wanted to hear about at one of the other meetings, which is about the Lebanon tax district, the fire district, because I've already been contacted by residents who want to understand what the plan is for that fire department and who are very concerned about all of the full-time firefighters being let go and how that's going to also, how the service is going to be provided and the impact to their rating and then their insurance, their homeowners insurance. So that's something I would like, I know for at least one of the other meetings that I would like our board to hear directly about that.
And just for everyone's edification, what Commissioner Jacobs is talking about is the Lebanon Fire District Board decided to not continue to pay county salaried firemen in the Lebanon district, but rather to start paying those firemen with their own money because, frankly, from their vantage point, it was too expensive. They were maxing out the tax rate and how much it cost them to pay for those fire employees. So you're really asking to have that board come and talk to you about that?
It's because what the phone calls I've gotten have said that all of the firefighters have been basically let go, and people are very concerned. How do you hire a firefighter in this environment where we know that first responders are very hard to hire? And so there's a lot of alarm from folks, and they're our constituents. So even though we're not directly in charge of this, I think we need to understand what's happening.
That's a pretty long discussion and in depth.
That probably is better for a work session, for us to have it at the level that we're
Right, so
asking
what
for.
you do is discuss the tax rate. And then generally leave the adjustment of how that tax district is run to that group of directors. So
Yeah.
Commissioner Jacobs says on a work session, I don't think they're asking for a tax rate increase.
It's not a tax rate.
So it's not a budget work session issue.
Okay.
Right.
Is that okay? Am I hearing?
Whatever, I'm just trying to be responsive to, concerns of our residents. I mean, everybody wants to know that when they call 911 and their house is on fire, that somebody is
So
coming.
that's a discussion that they can have to respond to the concern, but because it's not a tax rate discussion we're having, it shouldn't be a part of our budget work sessions, but we want commissioners to understand what's going on.
All right, so we'll put it down, and you definitely have it at a work session as soon as possible after that. Wayne?
I'll just offer real quick comments to allay concerns. It is like Keith said, they let go the employees in anticipation of bringing those same firefighters back on contract.
So let me stop us. I don't want us to try to convey what their plans are.
Okay.
I don't want you all to do that. Let's let that board come and provide that, because I don't want us to say something that may not be accurate.
Okay.
Let's let them do that.
All right.
Yes. 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 Okay. It's awkward.
So I did hear Claudia say we were going to add ARPA to June the 1st. So, and then on June the 5th, we have a CIP discussion. I don't know that we're going to go through the whole CIP. But I was going to let you all know that we're going to update that biennial CIP during the fall coming up. But I don't doubt that there are some specific projects you may want to explore, and we'll talk with the manager and Perry about that. On the 5th, we have the Durham Museum of History. They will be coming to you with a request for additional funding. I just fired off an email to them. They sent a piece of paper at $600 and some odd thousand, but it's for architectural design and maybe some ongoing money. I've asked them some questions. This was transmitted to me from Commissioner Alam. It's on there. The 5th is a better day, given what we've heard, Manager Sowell, about decisions to be made. When I get some clarification, we'll have some summary information for you. I will say that it does look like if they're wanting an architect, and part of this is maybe a city funded and county funded, what it is doing is probably setting everyone up for a newer, nicer, larger Museum of Durham History. So, and that is a different cost that would come at a different time. So,
Looking for a new space, and they're talking with the city as well as the county. Yeah.
I'm just, going to throw this out here, see if the cat licks it up. Like, the budget is closed. Like, I'm trying to be as respectful as I can be. Like, the additional request, I get it. Yeah, let's do it. If for the public that's watching, you don't see Commissioner Burns asking for no additional sessions, because if I got a question, I try to go and ask staff. That is not a criticism of my colleagues, because they've been up here long. Maybe they know that there's something that folks need to hear about. But I'm trying to fit. You said you just got this in an email. Like, next year when we do this, like, there's got to be a stop, because like Brenda said, the 6th, I'm juggling a scheduler here, and it is what it is. Like, this is not a Christmas tree that we can keep hanging ornaments on. So I would respectfully request any departments, anybody that's sitting up here with me, email it or something, because like at this point now we have a 7.5 hour day, and I don't think it's fair to Key, to the manager, to Claudia, to anybody to keep saying, well, I want to get this, because a museum request, I've seen them talk about it in a couple of meetings, but I don't think it's fair that somebody should be able to send an email after we've presented the budget and say, I want this, and then they get 30, 45 minutes with us, because this is precious time. So y'all can do what you want to, but at a certain point, I want to respect the staff. I want to respect other people's time. Just throwing that out there. Again, see if the cat licks it up.
Yeah, I have a question. I know that the manager and I did speak about us to get an update on the housing, low-income homeowner relief program, and we had talked about it going to joint city-county. The only thing that I'm concerned about is actually our board is the board that actually has to approve the change to the policies, and I'm wondering if that should actually get presented to us first, because we actually approved those policies last year before the budget was adopted. So, and also all of our board members are not at joint city-county, and whether we should have that presentation come to us first. I don't know what your thoughts are on
Yeah,
that.
we can have now, and I didn't understand that it would have a budget impact, because at one point we did talk about leaving that budgeted amount allocated where it was.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't have to happen before the budget's approved, because you all have already said you wanted to leave that allocation, and it's there.
Yeah.
But it's something that we can bring back before the board for a work session.
Yeah, because we actually, our board is the one who approves. The DSS board makes the recommendation for the policies, but then we have to approve them.
Right. But the budget, it's the budgeted amount has already been, it's a part of the recommended budget.
Yeah.
So that won't be impacted by anything that they bring to you. But the policies and how it's administered would be something that this board would approve.
Yeah.
The funding
I just wanted
is
to raise
already in
that.
there. Yes.
About
the change in the policy.
Yeah.
We can certainly bring that before the board first, this board first.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I'm not as, making sure that I understand, are we having a full day on June the 1st?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I mean,
I didn't hear that. I didn't hear that people wanted to change it. Right.
We can choose, but I don't know what the options are.
The other option is, as Dr. so well noted, is we had always had June the 6th as an extra day. We were trying to get done with this quicker because we had a whole day scheduled for the 1st, and we were going to fill up that time, and we told you what's on the agenda through the 5th. The option is to move some more stuff to the 5th and or move stuff to the 6th. What I don't want to run into is you all running out of time or overtime on the 5th. I've been around this group long enough, and commissioners in general, to know they tend to run a little bit long. So I want to make sure you have time for questions. My recommendation is if you do want to move, you need to open up the 6th, and we will move some of these that I listed for you to the 6th.
And can I just add one thing about the 5th? I would not advise us to extend the 5th. That is our work session day. And then there's also an event that is going to take place that will cause you guys to lose an hour and 30 minutes of work session. So we already will be at a full day.
Yeah.
And again, just to remind you, the 5th right now is CIP general discussion, Durham Museum of History, which we just talked about, and potential stipends for various boards and commissions, which Shannon Trapp will be leading. Those are the three things set for the 5th. The 5th is 1:30 to 5, which is shorter than you think, 3.5 hours.
Yeah, I don't.
Because that's also, in theory, the wrap-up day, unless you move it to the 6th. And what I mean by that, then we'll really go through the add, delete list. And
yeah,
I mean, can we, again, people get up and walk out from time to time. As much as I want to, my vote would be to keep the day how it is. If somebody got a doctor's appointment, that's fine, and then they can come back later. But I am not a big proponent of saying, let's make the staff and everybody else come back here on the 6th. That's my vote. So I don't know what y'all want to do, but that's my vote.
Yeah, I think, these dates have been on our calendar since the beginning of the year, and we need to honor that. So
as much of a vote as you can take at a budget work session. Okay.
I mean, I went to a doctor's appointment last year.
So I will, that's it. We can adjourn.
Any other thing?
All right. Yeah.
Thank you. Forward to your questions. Anybody has questions about the budget, feel free to send them to our office. Thank you.